Drivers in their cars are ready to roll in the NASCAR Busch Series on FX, presented by TGIF. 200 laps, 300 miles. If you look at the cars, Chevrolet 19 in this field, 13 Fords, 11 Dodges. Jeff Hamm, we have some Fords up front, and the Roush cars and Fords have done well here.
They've done quite well here, and it's this Busch package right now is something kind of new with the Roush Yates program, and right now they're showing a lot of power, and I'll expect both those cars to really be kind of battling for the lead and for the win.
How much experience on this track plays in?
I think a lot. I mean, I think if you've got the comfort and understanding what's going on with the track conditions, you're going to be able to tune on your car better through the race. So I look at a guy like Elliott Sadler and think, he may be kind of a rookie back in this series once again, but he's going to be one of the veterans you're going to have to watch.
All right, worth keeping an eye on. Let's rejoin Larry, Darrell, and Mike.
Let's have a look at conditions for today's race. As we said, it's going to be kind of blistering. A lot of hot sun here in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, the air temperature is a lot like it was yesterday, but I think the real difference is going to be this track temperature. Last night, the last time these cars were on the racetrack, it was in the 70-degree range. So a lot slicker, a lot hotter. These cars are going to slide around, and those adjustments are going to be so important for these crew chiefs.
Nice sun-drenched crowd on hand as well. Big crowd for a Busch race. Both in the infield and the grandstand, though not packed, it is still pretty full. And all those fans, nearly 100,000 of them, all sit anxiously awaiting these words.
It's time to get it started, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome back today's honorary Grand Marshal, board member from Boyd Gaming, Mr. Luther Mack.
Customers and employees of Boyd Gaming Corporation, drivers, start your engines!
Set for 200 laps, 300 miles. In the Samstown 300. Let's have a look at our TGIF starting grid for today's race. Carl Edwards, rookie pole sitter. Elliott Sadler, 2 Fords on the front row. Another rookie right behind. There's Kyle Busch, who's a rookie in the Cup Series, runner-up in the Busch Series last year with Shane Meehan. Cliff Boyer, Jason Keller, who's making his 240th consecutive start. Reed Sorensen, who is a rookie with Casey Kane.
And just to follow up on what Jeff Hammond was talking about and Chris Myers, we do see a lot of Fords up in the top 5 and the top 10. We talked about the dominance that they've already had at Las Vegas, but like Jeff alluded to, this is only the third race that these Busch teams have had that Roush Yates new engine package like they ran in the Cup cars. We saw Mark Martin pretty much dominate Fontana, and I think just going to add to their ability to go out and win the race here today.
I look at Elliott Sadler, who did compete last week in Mexico City, running a limited schedule of Busch races, and the spotters on the roof, getting ready like we are to go to work.
But you're right, Matt. We bragged about that crowd down in Mexico City last weekend. I mean, my gosh, we almost have a packed house here at Las Vegas. Temperature in the low to mid-70s, it just doesn't get any better than this.
Pretty hot out there today. These drivers, I hope they all took that into consideration when they're getting ready for the race. Not a really long race, but still driver comfort will be important as this race wears on.
Pretty good crowd for a Saturday, as the song lyric goes. Tomorrow's race, the UAW Daimler Chrysler 400 for the Nextel Cup cars. The grandstand sold out, so they've had to add these temporary bleacher seats at the entrance of turn number 3 to accommodate the demand for tickets. Getting ready to roll in Las Vegas, and I don't mean dice. 300 miles for the NASCAR Busch Series next on FX.
Well, a hearty good evening to everybody in the UK and across Europe on Motors TV as we bring you the Samstown 300 Round 4 for the NASCAR Busch Series from Las Vegas, Nevada. As you can see, there's a great turnout today here in the Nevada desert for this, the 4th round of the championship. We may not be live tonight, but we definitely are in Las Vegas. Carl Edwards, the rookie, he's starting on pole. Brilliant job in that Roush-Yates motor package that the Roush team is running. Alongside, no surprise, Elliott Sadler in the Yates running number 90 car. So that Ford power is definitely a thing to have, at least in qualifying, here at Las Vegas on the 1.5-mile circuit. And a few track facts. Well, the degree of banking in the corners today here at Las Vegas, 12 degrees. The degree of banking on the straights, well, it's 9 degrees on the front stretch, as you can see here, and a slight incline of 3 degrees on the back stretch. Race winners. There have been 8 races in the NASCAR Busch Series run at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Jeff Burton, who now runs with Richard Childress Racing in the Nextel Cup, has won here on 2 occasions. Other winners here at Sin City have been Todd Bodine, Jeff Green, Kevin Harvick, Mark Martin, Joe Nemechek, and Jimmy Spencer, Mr. Excitement himself. And speaking of Kevin Harvick, well, so far this year it's been deuces wild for the number 21 car. Kevin Harvick's come home second 3 straight times. 3 deuces is a pretty decent hand to have if you're starting a poker game. Here in Las Vegas, we're going to give you all kinds of wagering and betting and all kinds of casino references tonight. Kevin Harvick in the number 21 will actually be starting today's race on grid position number 12, lining up next to Paul Menard in that Chevrolet's Menard Chance 2 Motorsport entry. What else can we tell you? Well, Kyle Busch is back in the series. He'll be running that number 5 car that Adrian Fernandez drove so terribly well, actually, down in Mexico Way last weekend. Kyle Busch will be starting today in the number 3 spot, and alongside him, a driver who hasn't had much press over the last year. Actually, he's had some bad press with some off-track problems, but Shane Meal in the number 32 has been running very strong. He had a great race in Fontana. I believe he finished 3rd. Shane Meal will be starting 4th. He would be the second of the quote-unquote Busch regulars, and next to him will be a very impressive rookie, actually starting in the inside of row 3, Clint Boyer in the number 2 car from Richard Childress Racing. Jason Keller, a NASCAR Busch veteran for many years, he'll be starting 6th. And the hotshot rookie, Reed Sorensen in that Chip Ganassi entry, the number 41 Dodge. Reed Sorensen will be starting 7th. Casey Kane 8th, J.J. Yeley 9th, and Greg Biffle, a former champion in the NASCAR Busch Series, will be starting 10. Anyway, we're going to send you back to the folks in Las Vegas. Enjoy the race.
Welcome back to Las Vegas. That is not something we picked up out in Area 51.
Came over from the Air Force Base.
Not a UFO, but that's Whelan's new caution indicator light, which is positioned right at the commit cones coming onto pit road to help drivers avoid a repeat of what trapped 3 drivers last week, pitting after the caution had come out when they thought pit road was open.
Yeah, just remember that light will come on simultaneously with the caution lights, which indicates if you're past that line and the caution comes out, you're okay. It's a free pit stop. There you see 200 laps, 300 miles. We'll talk about this a lot, I'm sure, during the day because it's been a hot topic. Pit road speed 45 miles per hour and 60 to 65 laps on fuel. We've already talked about these cars sliding around. I think they're going to want tires much sooner than they need fuel.
Speaking of tires, Dick Berggren.
Tires are always a story, and here at Las Vegas, teams were allowed just 6 sets when they rolled into this racetrack. That was for all the practice qualifying in the event. The teams that ration their tires well will have fresh tires at the end. First time we saw this rule in place was California a couple of weeks ago, and some of the better teams ran out. To Matt Yoakum.
Dick, the word for Joe Nemechek today is patience, starting all the way back in 28th. Now, he has a great record here in 8 starts, 4 finishes of 3rd or better, including a victory 2 years ago. Now, even though he does start in the back, crew chief Gary Putnam told me the biggest key today is keeping the car turning. Yes, the temperatures are going to be up. If they can keep the forward bite on the front of that race car so it can turn in the center of the corner, they should be pretty strong at day's end. To Steve Burns.
Matt, just getting here was a victory for this 21 team and driver Kevin Harvick. The early season schedule brutal from Daytona to L.A., then to Mexico City. And after Mexico City, this team tested in Atlanta on Monday, Tuesday. On Wednesday morning, they left Lexington, North Carolina on the team plane, landed in Memphis to get gas. The pilot found out the avionics had gone out, so the team had to buy commercial tickets. They flew from Memphis to Phoenix, Phoenix to Las Vegas, and they got here 15 hours later. Kevin Harvick, the defending champion of this race. Jeannie?
Well, contrary to what you might have heard, not all teams spend their off time on the Las Vegas Strip. The Friday night entertainment for the A-team of Martin Truex, including a meeting, a get-together of the brain trust, if you will, of both the Busch and the Cup teams, trying to figure out why these so-called Fontana car was not new and improved when it got here to Las Vegas. I've pretty much been told that today will indeed be a science project, but of course that's all relative to the team. This is a good team. Science project to them still means success. But I have been told that they will lick this thing by the time they get to Atlanta. Guys?
Thanks, Jeannie. Last year's race here won by 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, it was close. And guess who ran second again? Casey Kane.
To Kevin Harvick.
He was all over it last year on second places.
That's
Maybe
right.
He just needs to pick it up a notch.
This year it's Harvick who is second place Rose.
He's got 3 in a row.
3 races, 3 second places. Well, that'll put you top the point standings.
We're here in Stanton Barrett, and the 36 car has to go to the rear of the field. He pitted before the green flag. There you see him there. I mean, he was quite a ways at the back anyhow, so he'll have to go back to 43rd. Just to follow up on what Jeannie was talking about, I know a lot of people are wondering, well, the Chevrolets didn't have a change. They didn't cut the rear spoilers on the Busch cars like the Nextel Cup cars. Why are these guys struggling? And I think the big thing is the little variation in tire that we have this year from last year. A little different tire construction and compound.
8 drivers missed the show. We'll run them down for you next chance we get. Pace truck to pit road. Carl Edwards, winner of his first ever Busch Series pole, is going to bring them down to the green with Elliott Sadler, 2 Fords on the front row, green flag, and Edwards gets a nice jump.
Boy, he really did. I mean, you could see the back end of that thing squat down when he stood on it. I think he must have had it in first gear.
They are already 3 wide off into turn 1. They finally get it back to 2 wide. Carl Edwards in that 60 car. He comes in here second in points. He'd like to get these 5 points for leading his first lap.
Some of these fellows would just like to get through this first lap intact.
Paul Wolf is in big trouble right there amongst all those cars, right caught in the middle.
Clint Boyer on the inside, 3rd car back, challenging Elliott Sadler, trying to take the 3rd spot. Sadler comes pounding back on the outside. Shane Meal right with them, the 32.
And I just think with this impound procedure, we will see this at the beginning of a lot of these races where you have no practice after qualifying. There, you talk about it a lot. Comers and goers.
Oh yeah, some of these guys are going to be sitting there saying, man, I can't even hang on to this thing.
Sadler reasserts 3rd. Shane Meal moves up for 4th past the deuce of Boyer. On the pole sitter's car, here's Matt.
Brad Parrott just told his driver 1 lap ago, you've got your 5 bonus points, Carl. Now let's hunker down, settle in, and save those tires. They've taken care of the big picture. Now they want the W this afternoon.
Well, he's got a 1.5-second lead. You just don't say, come on, guys, come and get it.
Quite a bit faster on the clock right now than the 2nd place car.
Yeah, by about a 1/2 second.
3 wide mid-pack, the man in the middle, Tim Fedewa, newlywed Tim Fedewa, got married this week out here in Las Vegas.
Well, you can run down on the apron here. A lot of guys do. Try to make a pass down the front straightaway, drop down on the apron, and that's okay here. It's not out of bounds.
What did Jeff Burton say about Shane Meal in the pre-race? This kid is fast. He knows how to go to the front and get there. Here he comes. He's up for 3rd.
Yeah, he just drove by Elliott Sadler in the 90 car coming off turn 2 and completed the pass at the end of the backstretch. You know, you talked about the spotters, but look at Shane Meal, the 32 car. A little unique situation with his crew.
Trouble down
Larry. Turn 2, Larry. Round goes
the 10 of Michel Jourdain.
Caution is out.
The Kart Series driver and that unsponsored PPC Ford. He was in traffic, Darrell, in the middle of 1.
I don't think anybody got
bring it out around. Bring it to your pit box. Let's take a look at it.
He was racing amongst Joe Nemechek, Scott Riggs, and Aaron Fike when that happened, and tough break.
Let's get the.
He's trying to run the whole schedule this year.
There you see the 10 car. He just starts getting loose down in the middle of turns 1 and 2, and the back comes around. And No contact from anyone. Car was just real loose.
No, Scott Riggs had to whoa up and stay off him in that 30 and did so. And Jourdain put it pretty hard into the safer barrier.
I don't think we'll see a lot of cars pit here. We'll see another replay of it, hard hitting the outside wall. But if you need those adjustments, this would be a good time to make them because you may not get another chance for a while.
Well, Michel Jourdain Jr. gets the award for being the first boy in the wall today here at Las Vegas. And if anybody knows how to say caution in Spanish, let us know on motorstv.com or motorstv.co.uk. Happy to have everybody in the forum tonight. I want to send a shout out to Brendan, to Rokan, to Sue, to Steve, everybody who's on the internet. Welcome aboard. We're here for a delayed coverage of the fourth round of the NASCAR Busch Series from Las Vegas. And as we saw, the pole sitter, Carl Edwards, basically ran away from everybody there in the opening few laps. He got his 5 points. And as Larry Mack and DW and the rest were saying, his crew chief's now telling him, you've got that stuff taken care of now. Just settle down, get into the race rhythm, and everything should be just fine. Interesting to see that, and here we are with the Stacker car, Kenny Wallace, as he makes his way out of his pit box. And he's going to rejoin the battle. Of course, Kenny Wallace is one of the commentators on the Extreme Dirt Cars that also runs on Motors TV. If anybody is a fan of Extreme Dirt Cars, let us know on the Motors TV forum. It's kind of like stock car racing with a little bit of sliding involved on those little tiny quarter-mile, half-mile dirt tracks scattered across the United States. And Kenny Wallace does a fine job doing the commentary for us in the United States. Of course, his sponsor is also the official sponsor of the series, so no coincidence there. Elliott Sadler's making another guest appearance today. Sadler, who ran in Mexico, didn't have a terribly great race. Actually had his crew chief actually had a little bit of a run-in with Robbie Gordon. No surprise there. Gordon is no stranger to altercations on track and off. And Elliott Sadler will be looking to get his Yates-powered car up towards the front and go for a hard run. He's here for the win today. He could care less about points. He just wants a victory in the NASCAR Busch Series, as does Kyle Busch and the rest of the Bushwhackers who are here today. But there is a championship to be run, and Carl Edwards is doing his best. He is second. He's the virtual second in the championship to Kevin Harvick, but he is actually the real leader, if you will. Anyway, as we ride along at a very slow pace with Kenny Wallace, we're going to send you back to Mike Joy, DW, and Larry Mack.
Welcome back to Las Vegas. NASCAR Busch Series Racing on FX, presented by TGIF under our first caution. And time for a little TGIF trivia. Who's the only driver to score his first Busch Series win in Las Vegas? Jeff Hammond, we got Larry, Daryl, Mike. Anybody want to jump in on that one? Come on,
Daryl. Come on.
I give you a hint. I've been reading the Busch Series for Dummies catalog. I remember.
Well, just for y'all's information, DW is thumbing through this book mighty fast up here.
See? Okay. His last name is a color. How about
his
that?
last name's a color, and I happen to know who it is, guys.
I think it might be Jeff Green.
Yeah.
Jeff Green.
All right, good work. See, it takes teamwork. That's like, all right, teamwork, like Roush Racing. All right, you guys take it away.
I think the folks at home had that one about a month before.
Well, everybody in Owensboro did, I know.
Yeah, you bet. All right, one caution so far, Michel Jourdain. I believe they've taken that car back to the garage. They have. And there it is under repair. Trying to get him back into the race. Carl Edwards leads Kyle Busch, Shane Meal, Elliott Sadler, and Clint Boyer.
We had several cars that pitted, but most notably Kenny Wallace qualified in 14th. He was one of the few cars running in the top 20 to hit pit road for adjustments.
There you ride with Kenny. John Wood has come from 22nd to 15th in just 4 green flag laps, and we are back under green in Las Vegas.
John must like Las Vegas better than he did Mexico.
Well, Jet Clapp is more at home here.
More at home here.
On the outside, Casey Kane goes after Clint Boyer and takes 5th place.
Where Carl Edwards in that 60 car is so strong. I just watched him off turn 2. Right here off turn 4, you see the same thing. He's able to get in that throttle and stay in it, and you carry that speed all the way down the straightaway as he's doing right here on the front stretch.
And here comes Harvick on the inside, that orange car, against Greg Biffle. This is for 10th, or 9th rather.
course, the winner of this race 1 year ago. One of 2 wins from 2004 in the Busch Series.
Kind of keep an eye on Carl there. Car takes off as fast as that one did, Larry. That tells me the car is pretty darn neutral. That car can get a little free on him as he gets into a run here.
And on our qualifying show, as we see Ashton Lewis in the 35 car, I'm sorry, that's Jason Keller in the 35 car racing with Davey Green in the 27. He was a little concerned about that. He said he almost wonders, was his car too good for qualifying last night?
Yeah, it might be a little bit too fast to be good over the long haul. So we'll keep an eye on here and see what these other cats are able to do.
Green completes the pass for 11th. Also Reed Sorensen, or Paul Menard, who passed Reed Sorensen for 7th.
That 32 just took second place away from the 5 car. So that car looks really fast right now.
And now that he's broken out into open traffic, we'll see how his lap times compare to our leader, Carl Edwards. But it looks like Kyle Busch in the 5 is going to lose another position to Elliott Sadler in the 90 car.
It's a little like we're back at Fontana with comers and goers, depending on who hit the setup just right for the track conditions at race time.
Well, how you going to know? I mean, you qualified last night. How do you know it's going to be 85 degrees today? I mean, even Larry that follows the Weather Channel as close as he does. You didn't think it was going to be 85 today, did you?
Didn't quite anticipate it. We knew it was going to be much warmer than when they qualified, and as we interviewed our drivers last night after they qualified, there was some concern about that.
Harvick coming hard. He's past Clint Boyer, and now he moves underneath Reed Sorensen to move the 21 up into 7th place. Carl Edwards now with a lead of 2 full seconds over Shane Meal.
Well, I think Kevin Harvick in the 21 car, when he just drove by Reed Sorensen in the 41, he kind of gave a wave. Once again, Reed Sorensen continues to show maturity. He didn't race Kevin. Kevin called him, let's don't race each other. It's too early in the race.
He's a smart kid. I mean, he really uses his head. He acts like he's got years of experience when we know he's just a rookie.
Sterling Marlin in the 40, battling Jason Keller. Stremme right there in the 14. Denny Hamlin there in the 20.
Now, you take a look at these guys that are running well right now, running up front. A lot of them were in Cup practice earlier today. And so they've been on the racetrack. I think that gives them a little bit of a leg up in the early going here.
John Wood slides up just a little bit. He's got company. That's Mark Martin in the number 9.
Remember, Mark, not a very good qualifying run. Qualified back in 25th, and now he's up there battling for 17th. He was very concerned, and he picked the wrong setup for this race car. He was very discouraged after qualifying last night, but he looks pretty solid right now.
But as he said, Larry, he picked the wrong setup for qualifying at nighttime. Wasn't sure how it would react at noontime.
Exactly.
We'll see. Here is the 4th place group: Kyle Busch, Kasey Kahne, Paul Menard.
And I've been watching Paul Menard in that 11 car. He's been picking them off one by one. Looks like he can turn his car to the bottom as he's doing right here. And when you do that, it puts the 38 car, Kasey Kahne, in a bad situation, and you're able to drag race him down the front stretch and win the battle off into turn 1.
11 cars really stepped up their program this year. Starting at Daytona, led the race all forever at Daytona. Just has had some great runs so far this year already.
Matt, what's Carl Edwards trying to do? Beat the traffic out of here?
Well, he certainly is doing a good job of that, Mike. Opened up to a 2.7 second lead over Shane Meal. Under that caution, he was telling crew chief Brad Parrott the characteristics of the car, how he needs to be freed up on entry. The car is too tight, but it is very good from the center to off the corner. And Brad said, I noticed a few things from final practice over the Nextel Cup garage, so I know what adjustments air pressure-wise to make on that first stop. So they already know they've got a good car, and they know what adjustments they're going to make it better. Jeannie?
Well, on the subject of good cars, a lot of drama. I kind of talked about it going into the race. Mark Martin a little frustrated with his setup because he made the suggestions before, of course, the car was impounded and they couldn't make many changes. So far, guys, he's been saying it is a pretty good car. He just came on the radio saying it was a bit tight, but they have been preaching on the radio and throughout the day in the garage. Patience, patience here will be the key. The best drivers will make their way to the front. Just have patience. This car will handle well, and we will get you there.
You know, Mike, he's talking about Brad Parrott, Carl Edwards' crew chief. The thing that he is really, really good at, I drove the 88 car a few years ago, and he and Todd were working on it together, and he was the tire specialist. They could maneuver air pressure and change that car and never touch a wedge bolt. They could make that car go from really bad tight to loose to neutral with just working with the air pressure in all 4 tires.
And the great thing about making air pressure adjustments versus wedge or track bar, you stand a less chance of a mistake or slowing the pit stop down, because it's an adjustment that's made before the car actually comes to pit road.
Mark just passed J.J. Yeley for 13th position. His Roush stablemate Carl Edwards has a 2.8 second lead on Shane Meal, Elliott Sadler, Kyle Busch, and Paul Menard.
35:01.
Welcome back to Las Vegas. 24 of 200 laps complete. Carl Edwards now out in front of Elliott Sadler by 3.3 seconds. There's a look at the rest of the top 5. Kevin Harvick is up to 6th over Reed Sorensen, Casey Kane, Greg Biffle, and Clint Boyer. A little further back, moving on Denny Hamlin. Here comes Busch champion Martin Truex. This is for 19.
Yeah, Elliott Sadler is a tick quicker right now than Carl Edwards by a couple of tenths. He's slowly reeling him in, but it's going to take a while at 2/10 a lap.
Steve?
And DW, you're exactly right. His team just radioed his times, telling him where he was in relation to the leader. Now, Elliott Sadler is saying, my car is good. I'm just a little bit loose on the exits of the corners. Just help me a little bit getting off.
What we talk about Elliott Sadler just a little bit quicker than Carl Edwards, our leader in the 60 car. Carl Edwards' teammate Mark Martin in the 9, he just broke into the top 10. Remember, started 25th after a little rough qualifying run last night, but he very well, a lot like Elliott Sadler and Carl Edwards, may have the quickest car. Problem, I think he needs a caution to catch him up because he's about 13.5 seconds behind our leader.
You can beat the house in Las Vegas, but here at this speedway, the house is Roush. Carl Edwards, the race leader. Mark Martin in 10th. And let's go to Dick Berggren.
And no surprise, car number 2, Clint Boyer, who slid back a couple of spots. The car is sliding the nose under power, even though, other than that, he's running just fine. They're real calm on the radio, however. Long, long way to go in this race, Mike.
You know, I have to say, I questioned Clint Boyer last year because we just didn't see the runs that I think we were expecting to see. But, you know, he would run a race and he'd sit out for a month because he was sharing the ride with Kevin Harvick. But it's almost like now that he's in this 2 car, working with the same group, running all the races, he's sitting there 3rd in points. Now he's getting some pretty good consistency, and a lot like Reed Sorensen, he's showing some patience.
Yeah, I talked to Childress about him, and he said, look, he's got talent. We just got to get him, comfortable and get him used to the kind of racing that we do, because he's never run these kind of races before, these long 200- and 300-mile races.
4th place battle. Kyle Busch along the outside of Kevin Harvick. Dick Berggren.
And Kyle Busch loses that battle just now. The car's a little bit free in, tight in the center. They've already talked about what they're going to do with that automobile on the first pit stop. Car just not quite right. It will be late in the race, though. Jim Long is his crew chief, veteran crew chief.
He has his hands full now of Paul Menard in the 11 car. We talked about Paul a while ago. His car, you'll watch him, he was able to turn it right to the bottom and run right around that line. And when you can do that at Las Vegas, you'll have a good run.
Yeah, the 11 car looks really good. And, Kyle's doing the right thing. He's just letting them go as they get to him, knowing that they're going to make the car better for him on a pit stop.
They lap past Eric Norris in the 72. 2 cars behind the wall. Michelle Jourdain after a crash, and Kim Crosby starting her first race of the season has taken and driving the 7 this week rather than the 24 she's been in, but has taken that car to the garage for repair. Carl Edwards now up by 5 seconds. Wow.
And I'm just watching the scoring monitor. He's still beating Elliott Sadler now by about 2 or 3 tenths a lap, but I keep peeking back there to that 10th spot. Mark Martin, he's keeping tempo right now.
Kenny Wallace not quite up to pace, going a lap down here.
And Kenny was one of the drivers I talked to this morning. He was very concerned about what he felt in that car last night in qualifying. He said, Larry, I'm just not sure. I don't think I'm going to be very good today. A little concerned.
Mark Martin has picked up 2 more spots from 10th now up to 8th. He's passed both Casey Kane and Greg Biffle, and he's about 3.5 seconds behind Reed Sorensen, the 7th place car.
And for a couple of laps here, he's had the fastest lap time around the racetrack too, so definitely on the move.
Randy LaJoie with Paul Wolfe. That battle is for 27th. LaJoie took the Champions Provisional, started this race shotgun on the field, but he's made good progress in the Jim Kelly and Frank Cece number 34. Justin Labonte and Dave Blaney fall a lap down to Carl Edwards. 32 laps complete in the Sam's Town 300.
Well, as we ride along with the stacker car, Kenny Wallace, who isn't having his best day today, he actually just got lapped by Carl Edwards, the Busch rookie who's absolutely running away from the field here today. It seems to me if you don't have a Roush motor, you're not going to come up big here today in Las Vegas. Carl Edwards is dominating. Elliott Sadler's got the same power. He's running second. And Mark Martin, wouldn't you know it, he may be an old dodgy guy. He may be on his last legs. He may be giving it all up come the end of this year. But Mark Martin started 25th. He's running the quickest lap times here today at Las Vegas. He's up to in the top 8. I would venture to say that after the first round of pit stops, you could very well see Mark Martin running in the top 5. And come the end of this 200-lap race, Mark Martin could very well be in for a second win here in the NASCAR Busch Series at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Good run from Shane Meal once again. He's got that Chevrolet all sorted out. Paul Menard's having a good race. Paul Menard's made some extremely good progress considering that he was a strictly road racer just until a couple of years ago. But with Dad's influence and Dad's big check, he signed on with Chance 2 Motorsports this year, and he's running a lot stronger than our defending champion, Martin Truex Jr., who ironically never had any road racing experience of note to speak of, and did a fine job last week down at the Hermanos Rodriguez Autodromo in Mexico City to come up with the win there, the first ever NASCAR Busch Series race south of the border of the United States, and a road course race. That doesn't happen every day in NASCAR Busch racing. So interesting things happening here. You can't always predict it. Reed Sorensen looks to be having a good race. Clint Bowyer's having a good race. A lot of good guys up there. Kim Crosby, our only lady in the race, she's dropped out. That's sad to say. Michelle Jourdain Jr., who's raced here before in Champ Cars and actually done quite well, had never won in the Champ Car Series on the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Unfortunately, the Mexican driver's day came to a very rude ending very early on. So as we hear the crew speak to Kenny Wallace as he motors around the 1.5-mile Las Vegas Motor Speedway, all we have left to say is that in about 20 seconds or so, we're going to throw you back to DW, Larry Mack, Mike Joy, Chris Myers, Jeff Hammond, and all the Las Vegas crew from the NASCAR Broadcasting Group. And they're going to keep you busy. They're going to keep you entertained as we go back to Las Vegas for more coverage on a delayed basis. We're not live tonight. Round 4, NASCAR Busch action, only on Motors TV.
Busch Series Racing, presented by TGIF, is brought to you by Smooth Busch Beer and easy drinking Busch Light. Busch, the proud sponsor of the NASCAR Busch Series. Glad to have you with us from Las Vegas here on FX. Don't forget NASCAR Nation, seen Monday through Thursdays over on the Speed Channel. Check listings in your area. Rookie Carl Edwards leaping to the front at the start of the race after his first ever Busch Series pole, and he's trying to become the first driver to win the first career pole and race in the same weekend since Jeff Fuller did that in Bristol back in August of '96. Given the temperature, maybe hot tires here, is this strategy something that we should keep an eye on?
Right now, his car looks like it's on a rail, in my opinion. I mean, he just really very effortlessly keeping the car on the bottom of the racetrack. It's very strong, and he just gets down the straightaway extremely well. I mean, he's just having a really good, solid run. And another guy right now is having a real solid run. It's moved up to 6th place. This 41 car, Reed Sorensen. I mean, this young rookie right now, again, one of the first times he's had an opportunity to see this racetrack in this type of condition, and it seems like he's just got such great car control. I think driving all the different forms of cars he's driven in his early career has made him very confident as he gets ready to look like put some pressure on that 5-car, Kyle Busch, and like I say, that 41 really looks smooth. Making his way around the racetrack.
Kyle Busch currently running 5th, and Reed Sorensen, a guy who's at his first Las Vegas Busch Series race, and his best Busch Series finish so far is 4th. Let's check in with Matt Yoka. Matt?
The yellow 11 car, Paul Menard. He was running in the top 5, slowly drifted back to 7th, says the car is just too free on exit. He cannot get in the gas as Mark Martin takes on the inside that position, dropping Paul Menard back to 8th. Talking about the track bar adjustment, possibly maybe air pressure on that first stop, which should take place somewhere around lap 62. Caution on the racetrack.
Jason Keller appears to have gone up in smoke as he comes down the front straightaway, and Darrell looks like he got it well down off the racetrack before a whole lot of fluid got up.
Yeah, he started off turn 4 and he felt the thing start to vibrate, I guess, and started smoking a little bit, and he got right on the apron.
And he was running in the top 20, and just remember, almost all of the Fords, including Jason Keller, they are all running that Yates-Roush engine package. So, you know, I'm sure this will get some people's attention.
Keller, one of only 3 drivers who've competed in all 9 Las Vegas Busch Series races. Randy LaJoie and Joe Nemechek are the others.
Well, I think we would conclude everyone wanted to see this caution except for Carl Edwards in the 60 car, who was leading, you know, by almost 7 seconds.
Jeremy Mayfield had just been lapped. He will get the free pass. Darrell, how do you slow down a kid like Carl Edwards when he's won the pole? He's got a fast car, and he says he's not driving it too hard, but he's pulling away.
I think he's driving it pretty hard, actually. He thinks if you're not running around here wide open, you're not driving hard.
How do you back him down?
Well, I just think you leave him alone. You know, the car is built to run the race. I mean, I just think you leave him alone. Let him stay in his zone. Let him hit his marks. You start trying to mess with him, I think you mess him up.
We've run 41 laps. Now we're going to see all of our leaders to pit road. I'm sure this will be 4 tires full of fuel and probably major adjustments except for about 2 or 3 of our race cars.
Dick Bergman.
Kyle Busch hits out of 5th position, stops exactly on his marks. Bit of discussion between driver and crew chief about what to do. Crew chief 1, Jeannie.
Crew Chief Pat Tryson telling Mark Martin, go get him one at a time. The car a little bit tight, air pressure and wedge adjustment. 4 tires, he's on his way, Steve.
Genie Shane Mills said he is too loose, so they're going to put a round and a half of wedge in the right rear. They make that adjustment. Let's go to Matt.
Now, I told you earlier that Carl Edwards in the 60 car needed to be a little tight, a little more freer on exit. The car was just too tight. They adjusted with air pressure. He's got the first pit box, crosses the line, and he still holds on to the lead.
The real winner on that pit stop is that 21 car, Kevin Harvick. He came in 4th. He's going to go out 2nd. Carl Edwards had such a lead, he was almost to his pit box, even under caution, before most of the other leaders got to their pit box.
And NASCAR's made a change on the free pass car. It will be Paul Wolfe in the 6 rather than Jeremy Mayfield, who gets the free pass.
Stop, guys. Good job. Fastest one of the day, boys. I mean, of the year, 1750.
42 laps. Caution out for the 2nd time today in Las Vegas. Let's have a look at our win fuel. Winning edge race off pit road. Carl Edwards. Kevin Harvick with a nice pickup. Elliott Sadler. Kyle Busch, Shane Meal, Mark Martin. Then Reed Sorensen, Paul Menard, Greg Biffle, and Clint Bowyer, the top 10. That's how they will line up for this restart. 44 laps complete. And still 27 cars on the lead lap as Carl Edwards was picking them up and mowing them down like he was trying to lap the field. We'll see what happens this time. And just to get you ready for tomorrow with NASCAR on Fox, why don't you reach over to the volume knob on that surround sound and exercise those speaker cones a bit. Give it a good crank. And on this restart,
crank it up.
Going on the restart. Neither did the 60 car. I mean, 21 car just down the back straightaway. Harvick takes the lead.
Steve, what's wrong with Shane Meal?
Well, a lot of frustration in Shane Meal's voice, Mike Joy. They think they've torn up the transmission. He can't keep it in 4th gear. The crewmen are just gathering their stuff up. I think they're headed to the garage.
There you see the crew going back to the garage area to see if they can get that transmission replaced. Again, Shane comes in here 7th in points. That is not a good sound, BW.
No, it isn't. You know, Larry, one of the things I've noticed, we've torn up a lot of transmissions lately. Part of the reason is, I believe, is all these new shifter combinations that they're putting on these gearboxes. I was in, when we were in Mexico last week, I was noticing there are more shifter configurations than I've ever seen in my whole life, where they're trying to move the shifter and levers to the top of the transmission to get them away from the driver to be able to move the seat over. So I think it's creating some issues.
Shane Meal has gone to the garage. Kevin Harvick, the new race leader. Carl Edwards in second. Elliott Sadler, Kyle Busch, Mark Martin, Greg Biffle, Reed Sorensen, and then this battle.
Boy, Paul Menard in the 11 car, he was underneath David Strimmy, and the 14 got real loose when he was underneath him. But, Matt, they were going to make major adjustments on that car, I think.
Larry Mack, and he did, as he's battling his teammate from the DEI stables, defending series champion Martin Truex Jr. in that 8 car on the bottom. Now, they made a track bar adjustment, trying to free him up. He just could not get in the gas when he needed to, up off the corner. They're hoping that one round up does help. Jeannie?
Well, there is a mystery unfolding in the 8 pit right now of Martin Truex. While he was out on the track prior to the pit stop, he was complaining of air pressure problems that he thought in all 4 tires in the inner liner, guys. He said he didn't feel like there was enough pressure in the inner liner, so it was causing the actual air pressure in the actual tire to fluctuate on a regular basis. So he was going from tight to loose to tight to loose. They're trying to figure that out right now. What we do know is the pit stop was as major as it can possibly be. Major wedge adjustment, major track bar adjustment, up on the air pressure all around. I guess they tried that yesterday when they were having some problems going up on the air pressure, and it really helped the car's handleability. So we will keep you posted on the mystery here in the 8 pit.
And just to follow up on that, the inner liner, it's a tire within the tire that's running to super speedways, 1.5 miles and bigger, and you normally have to keep the air pressure a little more in those than you do the actual tire. We're riding with Joe Nemechek. I've been watching him on our scoring monitor. He's up to the 7th position. Remember, started back in 28. I think he has one of the better cars, just gets that track position.
Oh, hello there.
Tim Fedowa following Sterling Marlin.
Man.
Sterling, the 40 car, looked a little tail happy there through 3 and 4 at last time.
Lucky he hung on there. The good thing they cut him a little slack there because he was out of control.
And he continues to lose positions.
And Stacy Compton going by on the inside, the 59.
Here we go, got one smoking going into 1 here.
Is that the 49 of
I believe it is.
Grissom? It is.
Caution is out, too.
You talking about Sterling losing 4 spots. You get that loose, you'll lose a couple of spots before you get your breath back.
That'll be a big break for Kenny Wallace, the 22 car. He will be the free pass car back on the lead lap, and maybe they can make that car good enough to stay up there.
It's still falling over on the right rear just a little bit now. It ain't bad. I don't want to tip the right rear up.
Talking about adjustments, Curtis Davis has taken his 0 to the garage, joining Shane Meal, Jason Keller, Kim Crosby, and Michelle Jourdain.
10-4. I don't know if that means I need to get this left front.
Well, Kevin Harvick got himself a great restart there after the last caution period, and he's actually jumped up to the point ahead of early race leader Carl Edwards. It seems that the paddock area, the garage area, is getting quite busy now that former NASCAR Busch champion Steve Grissom has made his way there. Shane Meal, very bad situation for that 32 team. Unfortunately, they pretty much grenaded their gearbox on the restart. That's going to hurt Shane Meal in the championship. He was doing just fine early on this year, and that's going to cost him dearly. He's going to drop down a few positions. We're going to let you listen to Kenny Wallace talk to his crew chief a little bit. Well, actually, I was speaking over Kenny Wallace. So here we go.
10-4. We have to start at the tail end of the longest line anyway, so 4,000 second gear.
As Kenny Wallace makes his way down very slowly down pit lane, and he's followed by Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is coming in for a stop. He's the only one of the front runners who's actually coming in. That's kind of an interesting situation. But Kevin Harvick's looking to go one better. He's up on point. He's had 3 second place finishes this year. He's looking to make it a first trip to victory lane here today at Las Vegas as we come to the pits with Kenny Wallace. And they are certainly not rushing Yeah, in fact, they just wanted to check that car over, put a little bit of gas in it, and Kenny Wallace is going back out. He won't lose too much track position. He was running pretty far down on the field, so this really won't affect things too much for that Stacker-sponsored car there.
Just roll easy right there, because you got to go around those guys at the end of the line.
They are saying pass the pace cars to go to the high side.
You got to get out of pits first.
Yeah, we got to let the field go by, Wesley. They won't fall in the back there, buddy.
Well, there you go. You got to hear a race car driver talk to his crew chief. That doesn't happen every day, but it does happen in NASCAR Busch Racing, and in Motors TV, we're happy as we could be to give you this kind of coverage.
Right side. Be sure everybody sees you. Don't let nobody knock a fender in now. Come on.
There he goes. Kenny Wallace is actually going to pass the entire field on the high side. He's going to, I guess, be given the lucky dog situation. He's going to be the first car on the tail enders. So we're going to be going back to our American friends, DW and crew, as they take you through the next portion of the race. I'll be back in the next commercial break as the Americans are selling Chevrolets, hot dogs, apple pie, and various soft drinks, etc., etc. But at Motors TV, we keep the action rolling and rolling.
Kevin Harvick, currently your leader here in Las Vegas. The NASCAR Busch Series on FX presented by TGIF. Moments ago, Shane Neal in the 32 car with some transmission problems. Not a popular sound for a driver. Jeff Hammond below the Hollywood Hotel at the Ford Cutaway car for more of an explanation on this. Jeff?
Well, Chris, first off, Darrell Waltrip was talking about the different types of shifters and how they're located on the transmission. Here's pretty much a conventional setup. As you look, it's mounted on the side of the transmission. This is a normal type of shifter pattern that you normally see in a stock car. But now today, they've moved to what they've called a top rail type of shifter, which is an SR1. Allows the shifter to be located right directly on top of the transmission. But when we heard Shane Neal's car brake a few minutes ago coming up through the gears, as you can look inside our cutaway transmission, there are a lot of turning parts inside this transmission, and it can cause you a problem whenever you go to sometimes change those gears real quickly. All they do is jam up this least little bit, and you can shear the teeth right off of it. Again, having the type of problem that Shane Neal happens as we get ready to go back to green. Guys?
Thanks, Jeff. Kevin Harvick, the leader, from Carl Edwards, Elliott Sadler, Mark Martin, and Greg Biffle. 1 Chevy leading 4 Fords.
And now we have a lot of lap-down cars to the inside for these guys to deal with. Certainly Kevin Harvick in the 21 would like to beat Jeremy Mayfield in that 64 car down to turn 1. Carl Edwards would like to clear him as well in the 60. 21 car gets a nice launch. That's actually how he got around Carl on that last restart. He just pushed Carl out of the way. Kevin and Harvick did in the 21 car, and here you can see just really shot out to a pretty good lead already.
Now several lead lap cars pitted, including Scott Riggs, John Wood, Denny Hamlin, Ashton Lewis, Paul Wolfe, Randy LaJoy, Kenny Wallace, the free pass car, and Kyle Busch. Here's Dick Berger.
Well, Kyle Busch thought he had a tire going down, Mike. Don't know yet whether, in fact, he did. They are still checking tire pressure here in his pit. Crew Chief Jim Long wanted him to stay out. Thought it was just perhaps that the tires were not yet up to pressure. Busch said, you want me to pit or do you want me to wreck the car? That was the end of the conversation. In he can. Meanwhile, Reed Sorensen, good bad news story. Turn 3 and 4, he's lousy. Turn 1 and 2, he's fast. Dick Berger, I know what bad news for Kevin Harvick and Carl Edwards is. It's Mark Martin in that 9 car. He just took over the 3rd position over Elliott Sadler. Man at 1 Fontana, I just think he's going to be there shortly.
Yeah, he is definitely on his way with a lot of urgency.
And Joe Nemechek, who started 28th, has made his way up into the top 10. David Stremme alongside Nemechek's 87. And it's Edwards back to the front. Harvick settles in second.
You're the man, Carl. Just keep it up. Nice and smooth. Don't overdrive it.
Here's Steve.
And Mike, with caution came out on lap 41. Kevin Harvick hit pit road. He said his car was too tight, so they took some air pressure out of both front tires. But when the most recent caution came out, crew chief Ricky Beyer said, tell me about your race car. Kevin said now it's just a little bit on the free side.
Steve, that means they've got an awfully close balanced car with just slight changes. They can go from the car being tight to loose, which that's a good thing to have when you're that close.
Greg Biffle on the move in that 66, Matt.
He's running in the 5th position, Mike, and Greg Biffle told his team on the last caution, the way we were going with that last adjustment, which was a track bar adjustment to free him up, has helped. He says, I want to go more in that direction on the next pit stop. And some chatter on the leader, Carl Edwards' radio crew chief Brad Parrish said, look up at the scoreboard. You can see all those Roush Yates engines in the top 5. And he thanked the engine department and Ford Motor Company for those heads you were talking about, Larry Mack.
Yeah, I would say 4 out of the top 5 right now. Right now, Greg Biffle in the 66, he has his hands full of Joe Nemechek in the 87, so Joe now moves into the top 5 after 60 laps. Remember, started way back in the 28th position.
Might be a problem on our series champion. Watch the Ada Martin Truex.
Yikes. Tire rub. Might have gotten into someone. Knocked that left front fender in a skosh. See the left front tire has got the Goodyear rubbed off of it. Jeannie, what's Truex saying?
Well, major conversation going on as they try to decide what to do. Martin Truex coming on the radio saying, yeah, you guys, I may have to pit because somebody did indeed make contact with my car. So we will keep you posted.
Guys, don't look now. Mark Martin in that 9. He just moved past Kevin Harvick in the 21, so he's in 2nd position, and he's only a little over a second behind his teammate, Carl Edwards, in that 60. He's a coming, as we say.
Mark Martin, the biggest mover of the day, as Aarons invites you to do the math. He and Joe Nemechek have each climbed 23 spots since the start of this one.
I know Mark was concerned about his setup after qualifying last night, but
this is the man on the move as well. We've been talking about him the last few laps. Joe Nemechek in the 87.
Yeah.
I mean, he just drove by Elliott Sadler in the 90 and driving away from him.
You know, I think what we're seeing might be the prelude to tomorrow's Cup race. Joe Nemechek against the Roush Fords. At least that's what Joe thinks.
And that's kind of what Larry was seeing as well. Joe runs so well here, and Joe has such a confidence about him right now, not only in the Busch car, but as well as the Nextel Cup car.
Well, he won this race in 03, so obviously he's got a good combination for this place.
Look at this wad of cars right here.
Yeah, I've been watching that 20 car, Denny Hamlin. He has been using the outside of the racetrack. One of the few cars I've said, watch him down here on the outside. I saw him pass about 6 cars here a little bit ago, all on the outside of the racetrack.
And Darrell, he's on a little bit fresher tires. He's one of the cars that elected to pit back on lap 53. So he has about 10 or 12 lap fresher tires in a lot of these cars.
Yeah, he's doing something that we haven't seen guys do today, and that's to make the outside groove work, and it's really helping him get around some of these guys that are fighting for the bottom.
You know, Darrell, they're using a lot of racetrack. We've seen a lot of 3-wide racing. So it's not like a one-groove racetrack with a lot of marbles. They can run pretty much anywhere they want.
Yeah, you know, these cars do not have the aero adjustment from last year that the Cup cars do. They've still got the big rear blade on them. They just got softer tires, which I think makes the racing better. You got the big blade, soft tires. It helps these guys handle wherever they want to go.
We call them bushwhackers, the drivers that do double duty in both the Busch and the Nextel Cup Series, the Nextel Cup regulars that moonlight on Saturday. And right now they fill the top 5. 65 laps complete in Las Vegas. Carl Edwards out front.
Well, there's certainly...
Stick better.
Info. $34.70, 10th place, $34.30.
Okay.
Well, we apologize for that slight technical glitch as we ride along with Kenny Wallace here at Las Vegas. And as Mike Joy was saying, This particular race is being dominated by the Nextel Cup regulars, with Carl Edwards leading ahead of a group including Kevin Harvick, Mark Martin, Joe Nemechek, Elliott Sadler. And I think all eyes should be on that number 9 car today as he dominated Fontana. Mark Martin looks like he could be in for a very special race here today at Las Vegas. And don't count out Joe Nemechek. He's the only one of the front runners besides Kevin Harvick. There's actually 2 of them who don't have that magic Ford motor that seem to be doing just fine here today. Taking a further look back down in the standings, Reed Sorensen's having a good race. Clint Boyer, who had a pretty decent start, he's kind of fallen back just a little bit. Our defending champion, Martin Truex Jr., he looks to have some serious problems. It just doesn't look like it's going to be his day here today at Las Vegas. He's got a tire rubbing on that number 8 Bass Pro Shops. Sponsored Chevrolet. Bass Pro Shops, for all you fishing fans, of course, is one of the biggest outlet stores of fishing equipment and all that kind of lot in the United States. So shout out to any of you guys who like to go on a Sunday morning and go catch whatever it is you catch in the United Kingdom or across Europe. Me being from the United States, we go sea fishing. In the UK, I'm not sure exactly what you do, but I'm sure somebody on the forum will come in and tell me perhaps there's some Scottish salmon to be caught. Anyway, we're riding along with the Stacker-sponsored car, Kenny Wallace. He's still running around in mid-pack trying to sort that car out. His crew chief's been talking to him all day long. I've been talking too much. I'm going to send you back to the guys in the States.
Looking ahead at his young ST Motorsports teammate John Wood. Wood just went by Compton and Ashton Lewis in a 3-wide pass to take over 15th place. And Lewis returns the favor, repassing Compton. Carl Edwards, our race leader, beginning to get a mirror full of Mark Martin, his Roush teammate, as the gap has now shrunk to not tenths of seconds, but mere car lengths.
Yeah, Mark has been beating Carl by about, at times a couple of tenths a lap. So I think in 2 or 3 more laps, he will be there.
Mark's car really, he drives into the corner much better than Carl does. They seem to be pretty equal on exit, but Mark really gets into turn 3, where I see a big difference, better than Carl Edwards does. Really closes the gap getting down into turn 3.
And you know, DW, go ahead, Matt.
Hey, D, that's exactly what Carl Edwards told Brad Parrott about 5 laps ago. He said, I'm still a little tight, but going into turn 3, that's where I feel like I'm just way too free. We've got to go more in the direction of the air pressure adjustment we've made on that last stop. It's helped, but not helped enough.
Yeah, Matty, it shows, because that's really where I see Mark closing that distance every time they go into turn 3.
And Darrell, we were talking this morning at our production meeting, and you know, Mark Martin in the 9 car, he's basically set every record that you could possibly set in the Busch Series. And someone said, hey, I thought Mark retired from Busch Series racing. You said, can you say Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan, that's right. You don't retire when you can win races. You know, you come back and get a refresher every now and then.
Right now, Mark plans on running about 8 races this year.
I bet he ends up running more than that if he keeps going like this.
Elliott Sadler's backed up a bit. He's fallen into the clutches of Greg Biffle, who is coming fast. Biffle moved past Clint Boyer 2 laps ago to take over the 8th spot. Sadler right now has slipped to 7th. Steve?
Yeah, he is, Mike. He is slipping back. Remember, earlier in the race, I reported that he needed more help getting off the corner, on the exit of the corner. Well, they made a pretty aggressive adjustment. They took 2 pounds of air out of the right rear tire, took a pound out of the left rear when they stopped, also made a track bar adjustment. So Elliott has reported in, well, you helped me. I have more forward bite off the corner, but you have killed me through the corner. So the adjustment they made helped one thing, hurt another.
Look how, you were talking about that, Darrell. Look how Mark in the 9, Mark Martin's able to drive it in that corner versus Carl Edwards in the 60.
Got his number right there. I'd say he's going to set him up and probably get by him if he keeps working on him like that.
Now, Mark was almost 0.2 of a second quicker than Carl that last lap, and all of it entering the corner.
But, you know, this is such good therapy for Mark Martin to be able to run good in a Busch car, win a Busch race. It means a lot to him. Mark thrives off of being a winner.
I believe they've made the right adjustment. You see in our 2 box on the right, Reed Sorensen in the 41 cars, we have a change of the lead. Mark Martin all the way from 25th to leading in 75 laps.
He becomes the race's 3rd different leader after Carl Edwards and Kevin Harvick. Edwards has led twice for 63 laps. Harvick was out front for 12. Now Chad Knaus has the afternoon off. He'll be crew chiefing Jimmy Johnson tomorrow, but he is spending the day going up and down pit road monitoring tire wear.
Well, and they run the same tire in the Nextel Cup cars that they do the Busch Series. Now, talking about a guy that's been on the rebound here, Kyle Busch. Remember, he made a pit stop back on lap 53, and on the restart, lap 55, which was only 20 laps ago, he was 27th, and now he's all the way up to 16th, so a good rebound. But remember, he has about 10 or 12 lap fresher tires than most of these cars.
Greg Biffle finishes the pass on Elliott Sadler. Moves Biffle up to 7th.
Yeah, definitely Elliott Sadler in the 90 car. His car was awfully good at the beginning of this race, but I think they went the wrong way, maybe on adjustments, or the track has somewhat went away from it.
Before Mark Martin drives off into the sunset, let's get to his pit and Jeannie.
Yes, and as I saw Chad Knaus earlier walking up pit road, it made me think of Jimmy Johnson, who said, when I grow up, I want to be Mark Martin because of his class, and most of all because he's such a fiery competitor. And I know we've said this repeatedly, just how disappointed he was in his qualifying effort on Friday. And the real reason, guys, he's got a great team behind him, and you've touched on it several weeks now, DW. I know you said that they know that he's on his way out in Cup racing, and they just want to give him his best. He was so proud of the car. He made some suggestions prior to the qualifying effort and really just discounted the fact that it was not going to be as hot by the time he got out there to qualify. And he was so mad at himself and really uncharacteristically beat himself up in a lot of the press conference efforts yesterday.
Yeah,
but as you can see, they got the car back to where they needed it to be.
Jeannie, he is such a perfectionist, Mark is, that if it isn't absolutely perfect, he is absolutely miserable.
Now, he didn't just drive away from Carl Edwards to get this big lead. Carl had a big moment and nearly got into Paul Wolfe alongside.
Right in the middle of turn 4, and it cost Carl a lot of time, but that almost was real big.
I don't see any damage on the side of Carl's car, but let's have another look at what happened here.
It looked like Carl actually got loose and almost drove up into the side of Paul Wolfe in the 6 car.
Yeah,
Paul did not come down on him.
No, I think what Carl was trying to do was cut down under Paul Wolfe right there, and the back end jumped out.
And by the time he recovered, he found himself a 2.5 seconds behind Mark Martin.
He was going to be okay because he had Paul Wolfe to his outside. Paul Wolfe now, on the other hand, may have been in big trouble.
8 wheels corner better than 4.
Roger.
Behind Edwards in 2nd, Harvick is 3rd, Nemechek 4th, and Dick Reed Sorensen 5th place.
Yeah, Reed Sorensen, a very happy guy right now, but he wasn't 2 laps ago, Mike, because the water temperature on car 41 was going for the sky. They had a piece of clear plastic tear-off that had locked itself on the grill of that automobile. So Sorensen got the front bumper of his car against the back bumper of another. That's all it took to knock the wind pressure down. Clear plastic gone, water temperature down. He's fine now.
Common denominator?
Well, we've been hearing this all year long on the Dodges. We went through it at Fontana 2 weeks ago, in Busch and Nextel Cup. I think their front grill openings, they're so efficient. They're down there. They're almost like little cavities, and I think they're collecting almost anything that comes in front of the race car. Let's watch it right here. There's the plastic, a windshield tear-off, and you're going to watch him. He's going to run up behind a car, and it'll basically change the pressure on the nose of the car, and it'll pull it right off.
But, Larry, I think the bigger issue with that nose is it's too straight up and down. Those grill openings are parallel to the ground, and there's no angle there.
There you saw it come off.
Saw it pop right off. There's no angle there. Like the Chevrolet, the Ford, and all, the grill is angled back, and stuff goes over the grill.
So because it's vertical, it creates kind of an air pressure dead zone.
And it just slaps it right against it, and it can't get off.
Wow.
He's good to go now. He's sitting there running in the 5th position, about 6.5 seconds behind our leader, Mark Martin. Now, these guys, remember, they were all on pit road about lap 42, so we're probably about 15 laps away from possible green flag pit stops.
Darrell, what'd you think the first time a crew chief said, hey, drive up behind that car in front of you and scrape that stuff off your grill?
I said I would, but I think it's going to make that guy that I'm doing that to really, really angry when I get up behind him that close.
Fortunately, now the air pressure will help you do it. Caution is out for debris on the racetrack at 84 laps. 16 laps to halfway.
And there you see the light you talked about at the beginning of the show, Mike. The minute the caution light comes on, that closes pit road. And then what opens pit road is the first time the pace car goes by the entrance to pit road.
The light is redundant to the flagman there, who waves a red flag with a yellow X. When he waves a green flag, pit road is open. That's a little earlier indication for the drivers that it is legal to enter pit road.
We just had talked about we were only 10 or 15 laps away from green flag pit stop, so I'm quite sure we'll see everyone. And right now we have 26 cars on the lead lap, everyone to pit road for 4 tires adjustments and full of fuel.
See Stacy Compton with his arm out the window there, Darrell?
Well, I was just going to comment about that, Mike. It's hot. And all that does is just sticking your hand out there, ducks a little air into the cockpit, and I can't tell you how good that feels, that little cool air blowing back on the driver. And the reason you don't pop your shield, you know, you say, why don't you pop your shield? That hot air blows on your face from inside the car. Keep the shield down. You'll actually be cooler with the shield down than you will with it open.
Joe Nemechek. Everybody down to 55 miles an hour. There's the green flag at the entrance to pit road, which is now open.
Plus the other thing, you've got the cool box blowing cold air inside the helmet. If you open the shield, you lose all that.
The leaders are in. Dick Berggren.
Reed Sorensen said he really didn't like that business of running up behind another car because it broke his concentration. Crew chief Brian Patty said, hey, that's what champions are made of. Right now, Sorensen is making his pit stop. He has told the crew that the car is just perfect. No changes other than 4 tires and gas. Gene?
Well, the 9 car of Mark Martin was tight, but he's pretty happy with it right now. That's understandable where he's running. 4 tires and fuel is all he's asking for.
And the 21 of Kevin Harvick on pit road. That car had gotten a little bit loose. Half a pound of air in the right front tire for Kevin Harvick. Matt.
And Carl Edwards entered pit road in the 2nd position. They're going to back up the air pressure, put a pound back in, so they're running the same exact pressures. Going to pull a tear off the front windshield. They hit the lugs, but Harvick's going to beat him off. He will now have the same exact air pressures they started the race on.
And that's 2 great stops for Kevin Harvick's crew.
Yeah, he came in 3rd, and he's going to go out taking the lead. And, I mean, it was not even close, the battle off pit road for Kevin Harvick, that Richard Childress 21 crew. Not at all. And these are big pit boxes here. You tend not to get all congested up and blocked in.
4th caution of the day, this one for debris on the track in Las Vegas.
Kevin Harvick currently your leader. Here's how it started with rookie Carl Edwards, the pole sitter in the 60 car, shooting out front, taking the lead. First caution of the day, Michel Jourdain Jr., the rookie from Mexico City. Sin City, more like Smoke City for him. Jason Keller, 240th consecutive Busch race, loses an engine. Shane Meal on board with him inside in the 32 car, an unhappy Meal. Transmission problems out of the picture. Lap 46, Kevin Harvick in the 21 car overtakes Edwards for the lead. Edwards got it back. And then later, Mark Martin in the 9 car takes the lead from Carl Edwards. But Harvick, your leader. And here's our rejuvenating moment of the race, brought to you by Just for Men Hair Color. More than a hair color, it's the Rejuvenator, and the 2nd consecutive pit stop well done by Harvick's crew.
It's been good enough right now to move him up each time they've come in to make a pit stop, but this last time it was good enough to move him all the way to the lead.
A couple of things worth mentioning. Tim Fito in the 12 car, married on Wednesday this week here in Las Vegas. His new wife Kelly, congratulations to them. And David Strebe in the 14 car up in the top 5 on the move after suffering all week with the flu.
Yeah, he's been suffering a lot all the way back to Mexico. But Chris, right now the guy you got to start watching out for, I believe, is going to be that 41 car. He's been sneaking back up there. That rookie is getting ready, I think, to give these guys a little bit of a fit here in a minute.
Under our 4th caution, 3 leaders, 5 lead changes, ready to go green.
Late pit stops for Martin Truex and Randy LaJoie. They trail the field by half a lap, and the electronic timing system has assessed penalties for too fast exiting the pits. Joe Nemechek, David Green, Kyle Busch, Eric Norris.
Joe Nemechek was running in the top 5, and we have 27 cars on the lead lap.
Jeannie?
Well, without bad luck, I think there'd be no luck in the 8 pit right now for Martin Truex. As the caution came out, crew chief Kevin Manion was going to tell his driver, hey, stay out. You know, we're having a rough day here. Why don't you lead the lap? We could use the points. He didn't tell him in time, guys. So he obviously made his do 8 on pit road. He had to make 2 stops to work on that left front fender because the car's shaking pretty bad.
Boy, what a battle for 4th we have right here. David Strimmy in the 14. He used Johnny Sauter in the 1 as a pick to get by Reed Sorensen in the 41.
Strimmy looks pretty good. I noticed he was running right there behind Sorensen before that caution came out. He just made that pass on him and pulling away.
And he gave a little hand signal once again to Reed Sorensen. I think Reed Sorensen, every lap, he gains respect of the fellow driver.
He's so smart. I mean, he doesn't put himself in harm's way. He doesn't put anybody in jeopardy. Just drives his own race.
And Strimmy feeling a lot better than last week when he had the tourist flu.
Oh, boy.
In Mexico City, had to climb out of the car. J.J. Yaley did a great job in relief.
He was El Seco last week.
Talk about drivers communicating with each other, Darrell. Watch Strimmy. This is right after he passed Reed Sorensen on the 41.
Yeah, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, dude.
You didn't hold me up, and I didn't cost you a lot of time either.
You can join you can join the Navy here. Come on.
Strimmy passes Jeremy Mayfield, who went a lap down earlier.
You know, a guy we hadn't talked a lot about, you mentioned him just a second ago, but it was because of Mexico substituting for David Strimmy, J.J. Yaley. He just passed Paul Menard. He's in the 18 car. He's up to the 7th position. Good, solid run for J.J. There you see J.J. in the 18 car. Pretty good qualifying run last night. Qualified 9th, and he's pretty much held his own in the top 10.
Man, Joe Nemechek has got his hands full, not just with his own car, but with about 5 or 6 others all around him.
Well, he had to make that pit stop, a drive-through penalty for exiting the pits too fast. And, boy, Aaron Fike just got a little bit sideways, so we'll get to use this for the first time today. There is, this would be the eye of the storm.
I would say you're
so
right.
To speak.
And most of these cars that they are wrestling with right now are cars that are a lap down.
Man, they just about did it over off of turn 2, guys. They just about did it.
Casey Kane in the 38 got way too high up there.
He was taking evasive action.
Yep. Sterling Marlin and Tim Fedowa go by inside.
This is one of them, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
It's going to be big.
Yeah. They go down here, and I think the 25, he gets loose and got in the side of John Wood, and that sent him up in front of the 38 car. That was starting to look like bad news.
Then Tim Fedowa in the 12, he stuck his nose right in the middle of it. Let me get in there too, boys. Let me have some fun.
A nice recovery by Casey Kane there in the 38 in the Battle of the Shears.
This is a battle that's going on back for about
You're good to go.
the 12th or 13th position. You see Sterling Marlin in the 40 car. I'm seeing a little bit of smoke taper off. Maybe the right front of that car. I think it may have been tire smoke. I believe we actually is overheating, and that's another Dodge. And if you notice, it looks like the grill is caved in on that car, Darrell.
Got a little steam coming out of her.
It has a little overflow right at the base of the right bottom corner of the windshield, and I think you see all of that grill area there caved in. I think that's possibly why that car is overheating. Sterling's was running in about the 12th position, but he's lost 3 or 4 positions since the car started running hot.
Scott Riggs just passed him for 15th.
You know, if you think back to this race a year ago, Larry, you know how that 21 car won the race last year? Great pit stops. He got out front, and they couldn't get by him at the end of the day.
We got a battle for second, though. Mark Martin in the 9 to the bottom of his teammate, Carl Edwards, in the 60 car. Mark's car is just so good. Imagine that on long runs. You never see Mark Martin
run up the racetrack. If his car is right, he's right around the bottom of that racetrack just digging.
The other thing you never see him do is panic. He always is just sitting there, just calm and cool. It's like a fisherman. He throws it out, and he reels it in.
His car's been so good getting to the bottom of the racetrack, getting in the corner. Right there. Picks that throttle up, stays in the gas. Harvick washes up the racetrack, has to roll out. Mark Martin will win the drag race down the back straightaway to take the lead again.
Second time Mark has led today. And Carl Edwards comes right back into the picture. Halfway next time by, Mark Martin will lead the halfway lap and try to become the third driver to win here after leading at the halfway point.
Cat lurking right behind him. Strimmy in that Dodge. I mean, he's closing down on these front four here pretty quickly, too.
Darrell, he definitely had the fastest lap of the last lap these guys ran by about 2/10, so he's right up there in the equation.
Where's Bradshaw?
That was strange looking. Shane Meal at start finish went right down to the track apron. He is 32 laps down after transmission trouble, but never mind. He's one of the quickest cars on the racetrack right now.
He's not out of it till there's 32 laps to go. That's the way he drives.
And he's pulling away from Kyle Busch, the 23rd place car.
Remember, Kyle was one of those cars for speeding on pit road that last caution, still trying to recover, just like Joe Nemechek and David Green and some others.
There goes Strimmy going by Harvick into turn 3 for third place.
You know, we talked to Strimmy yesterday during our qualifying show, the 14 car. What a difference it seems like that joining up with Ganassi Racing, the swap over to the Dodges, what a difference that has made for that entire Fitz Bradshaw program.
Let's go back a ways to this battle for ninth. Paul Menard and John Wood. Chevy versus Ford. Just ahead, J.J. Yaley in the 18. Here's Matt.
Mike, on their first pit stop, the 11 team went up on the track bar, and Paul said over the course of the next run, it hurt the car even more, so they backed up on that track bar adjustment and put on a set of scuffs, working on his best career finish, now running in that 9th position, which matches that best finish back in 2003 at IRP. They feel like they're going in the right direction. Now he just needs to settle in, get some clean air, and slowly start working his way back up to the front.
Okay, this is a good run for John Wood in that 47 car. We've been talking about the strength of the Fords here. He's up there in the 10th position. Another one of those cars that has that Roush Yates engine, the new engine package in it, and I think they're reaping the rewards for it now.
You know, John just stepped into the Truck Series and won himself a race, but struggled a little bit with the... There he is.
There's Bradshaw.
I knew he would be around. I knew he'd be here somewhere.
Hey, guys, it's a concern, Terry Bradshaw, right now. You're talking about Sterling Marlin. Sterling just radioed in, said his water temperature is up to 250 degrees.
Well, you know, that's certainly a concern, Steve, but I don't think you're going to see the same problem with Tim Fiedel and David Strimmy, because we've been watching the front end of Sterling Marlin in the 40 car, and the nose is all caved in and probably really hurt the airflow to the radiator. There's a reason why. We talk about the crew chiefs getting very aggressive with the tape on the noses of these cars. The more tape you can run on those inlets, it really helps the aero of the car, plants the nose, and you see the bottom is clean, but it's completely taped up. It's up there at those upper openings where it's caved in, where they had a little bit of opening, and I'd say that's what they're fighting.
Yeah, as hot as it is today, you should always err a little bit on the safe side with the tape, because you never know what you're going to get into, just like what happened to Sterling.
J.J. Yaley repassed John Wood for 8th place as you look at Mark Martin, who has almost a 1-second lead on teammate Carl Edwards. Caution is out of Las Vegas. Kim Crosby has crashed in turn number 2. She's been able to drive the car back to pit road, and the Boudreau's butt paste car has been severely shortened at, yes, that end. Dick?
Well, Reed Sorensen is going to come in for 4 fresh tires and no changes to the car. He says the longer he runs his race car, the better it is. He will still have 4 sets of stickers after this pit stop is over. Several people are going to be out after this round is done. Jeannie?
Well, you know you're having a good afternoon when the biggest problem in the 9 pit of Mark Martin is they just handed out ice cream sandwiches to the NASCAR officials, and they had to chow them down quickly because the caution came out. 4 tires and fuel. Steve?
Jeannie, a half a turn in the right rear for Kevin Harvick, and they're putting on a set of scuff tires, setting their set of stickers for the end of this race. Matt?
Carl Edwards felt like the car was coming to him, but he needed help at the beginning of the run. Air pressure adjustment all the way around for the 60 car, a little slow on that left front, and he's away.
He's going to be out second and just in front of David Stremme and Kevin Harvick. But there's Ashton Lewis, who is first off pit road. We're going to show you what happened to Kim Crosby, who had spent some time in the garage but then come back out, attempting to log some laps. Watch the yellow car.
It's a hard lick. This is what was just
that's
so
the one
close.
that 25 car just about took her right out. This is so close.
Ashton Lewis in the 25 car. Woo. Heads up on his spotter and himself.
Hard to tell if there might have been any contact to start that, but
I was sort of watching. I don't think there was.
Okay. Reed Sorensen will come back to the pit for a lug nut. By the way, going back to Mexico a week ago, when Carl Edwards had his Friday practice crash, the car in front of him entering the chicane that missed the chicane kind of threw off his entry point, did not cause the crash, but just distracted him, was misidentified as Kim Crosby. Actually, it was Eric Jones' car that was in front of Edwards entering the chicane there.
See Kenny Wallace, the 22 car, back on the lead lap, and you can't have mistakes on pit road like Reed Sorensen and that group just had, especially when you're this late in the race and you have 27 cars on the lead lap. It's just mistakes can cost you the possibility of winning this race.
89 laps to go. Kenny Wallace, who let's hope he hasn't used up all of his good luck this week, Matt.
Mike, it hasn't been his day today, but on Thursday night at the Golden Nugget, it was a big night. Kenny Wallace alongside his brother Rusty, Ryan Newman, and the ring from championship owner Richard Childress, 2-time 500 Indianapolis winner Elio Castroneves, and a host of others battling for big money for good causes. But the man who had the hot hand at the end was Kenny Wallace, winning $50,000.
Well, I mean, that's what racing's all about. Every sport, involved in racing, whether it's NASCAR or whether it's any other association, that's all we're trying to do is we're trying to help out people. We're so lucky. We make so much money, that sometimes we don't realize, how lucky we are. So for us to be able to give $50,000 to the National Autism Society, I mean, it just gives me goosebumps. It's cool.
The winning hand, 2 pair of 7s and a pair of 2s, netted $50,000 for a great cause, the Autism Society of America.
In all, the Mobil Oil sponsored event raised $100,000 for the various favorite celebrities' charities. Let's go to Reed Sorensen's pit stop and see what might have happened errantly.
You see right there, they just didn't get that 5th lug nut on that left front tire. The NASCAR official right there. And there you see the finger bring him back in. And, of course, here's a car been running in top 5, top 10 all day long.
NASCAR strives to have 2 officials watching each car's pit stop, and mainly it's for safety violations like that. Steve, John Wood's lucky day has turned around.
Yeah, tough break for him, Mike. He started this race 22nd, had worked his way up inside the top 10, just got caught for speeding on pit road. He must go to the tail end of the longest line.
All right, now Greg Biffle is actually going to be leading this race, but you heard Dick Berggren talking about the tire strategy. Again, these guys had 6 sets of tires, burned a lot of them up in practice. They had 4 sets to race on for the most part. Greg Biffle, after 23 laps, decided, hey, with 90 laps to go, I want to save my 2 sets of tires. So we'll see how 23-lap tires does against a lot of fresh tires.
All right, Larry, let's see if we can get through and crank it up this time without incident. Let's crank it up on the restart. Trouble turn 3. Paul Menard had to hit the brakes to avoid a car that suddenly slowed in front of him and paid the price.
I'll tell you who did a great job of getting through there was Reed Sorensen. Holy cow.
Yeah, Stacy Compton also paid the price because he was right behind Menard.
Yeah, he and Menard went up into the wall together.
Tony Raines, right side damage, and Sterling Marlin, more nose and left side damage.
But you're right, DW. Reed Sorensen getting through that wreck, but that's what you do as you see Stacy Compton in the 59 car, hard lick into the inside wall. But there you see he's helmet off, a little frustrated. But that's what you do to your driver when you put him in that box with a mistake on pit road. You put him back there in the eye of that storm.
You watch him go through this. He did a great job of sitting on a hot stove.
Yeah, see, they back up in front of Mark Martin, and everything just accordions. Menard gets tapped by Casey Kane, and
Martin Truex Jr. in the 8 car. I don't know how he ever made it through there, but he did.
Boy, Stacy Compton got hit, I think, about 3 times before that car came to rest.
See Paul Menard in the 11 car, which was the first car to get turned, and things just stack up behind him. See Joe Nemechek in the 87.
There's the second hit for Compton. Now he's going to start to slide down. Oh, got missed there. And, his teammate John Wood clipped him right at the end. You're not going to like this, folks. This is Stacy Compton.
Casey Kane went in on the outside there. Yeah, he went hurt.
Nowhere to go there, guys.
It's not over with yet.
Yeah. You all right, Stacy?
Stacy is okay. Let's ride with Joe Nemechek.
Go high, go high, go high, go high.
Ouch.
This is what's amazing right here. You see Martin Truex Jr. in the 8 car barely slipping through.
Tim Fiedel as well.
Reed Sorensen, you mentioned DW in the 41.
Zigging and zagging his way right through there.
Here comes old lucky zigzag Kenny Wallace.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Easy. Start waving them off. Clear low, clear low, clear low, clear low. You're good. Come on. That's it, baby. Good job. Come on with it.
I love that. Whoa.
Yeah, that's very instructive.
Oh, yeah, it helps a lot.
See Paul Menard, the 11 car, they're pushing him back to the garage area. Had a pretty good car earlier in the race. Sterling Marlin in the 40 with all types of damage. Well, just thinking about Joe Nemechek, we talked about Reed Sorensen being back there because of a mistake by the pit crew, leaving that lug nut off. The reason Joe Nemechek was back there was, remember, caught speeding on pit road, trying to recover from that.
So caution out for the 6th time here in Las Vegas. Greg Biffle, your leader. Getting set for the restart with 79 laps to go. Let's go down toward the infield care center and Steve.
Thanks, Mike. Stacy just out of the care center. Stacy, looked like you took several hard licks. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just frustrating. The guys at Kingsford Ford had gotten the car so much better. We were coming to the front, and just not a lot of patience out there. And the ones that caused the wreck look like they should know better because they're Cup drivers, and just hated to see it. Kingsford team we're finally getting on the roll, and just can't finish a race, and pretty frustrating. But that's the way it goes. That's racing. We'll just go to Atlanta next week and get them.
Thank you.
Getting set for the restart, Justin Labonte will be the free pass car. He'll get back on the lead lap. So it'll be Biffle, Edwards, Stremme, Harvick, and Ashton Lewis. But Larry, how long has it been since Greg Biffle's been to pit road?
Anytime. Well, he was on pit road at lap 86, and right now we're at lap 120. Now remember, the reason he stayed out was to try to save his 2 sets of tires. If we should stay green, he will have to be on pit road in about 20 to 25 laps for fuel.
Green flag.
Boy, David Stremme in that 14 car, he was hooked to the rear bumper of Carl Edwards in the 60.
Yeah, if I had a Dodge like he does, I'd take better care of my nose than that because they've been having a little nose problem.
They really had a fight with some lap cars down in turn 1 and 2. Stanton Barrett in the 36 as far as one of the lap cars.
And Sterling Marlin took that restart from pit road, went a lap down, repairing crash damage. For the lead. Carl Edwards coming right back after Greg Biffle, and he's going to take it.
Not without a fight.
Biffle will not give up. Just remember, we just talked about Greg Biffle. He has about 23 more laps on his tires, and right there you can see the difference. His car, the nose just slides up the racetrack on the exit of the corner.
4th place. Kevin Harvick on the inside. He's got company. Right behind the leader's single file. It is side by side. Harvick is underneath the 36 of Stanton Barrett, who's 2 laps down, but a lot of side by side racing right behind him.
Yeah, you know, Biffle saving those tires like that, that's good strategy if you get to use the tires.
If you get the caution.
Because we already talked about how these tires will fall off, or the pace will fall off somewhere between 2 and 3 seconds, new tires to old. So that could be a big advantage for him if it plays out.
Elliott Sadler trying to come back up into play, and Mark Martin boxed in. Entering turn 3, J.J. Yaley pulls up on Martin. It's number 9.
Definitely looked like they've made the right adjustments on Elliott Sadler, the 90 car on that last pit stop. But he was so good at the beginning of the race, then started to go backwards as he tries to go around the lap car with Stanton Barrett to 36. Looks like now he's working his way back to the top 5 where he was in the beginning of the race.
Mark Martin strong off the corner. And Jeannie, what about Martin Truex Jr.? He was 12th just before this caution, and right now he's running 12th.
Yes, interesting conversation during that cleanup between the 8 and his spotter. Joey Meyer said, I got you through that because I drove you right into the middle of it. Mark Truex saying, hey, I didn't hear a thing you said once it started. All I saw was cars wrapped around my hood. Spotter replied, well, then I did a great job. Martin, of course, taking issue with it, saying, wait, cat-like reflexes got us through. Maybe our luck is changing. And as the spotter replied, Joey Meyer saying, good, because I used all mine up on that deal.
You know, success has many fathers. Failure is an orphan.
I tell you, another good race car. You see Reed Sorensen in the 41 car. Remember, had that pit road penalty for a lug nut, trying to claw and fight his way back. I watched him a while ago. He ran the entire front stretch on the apron trying to pass race cars.
He's committed to the bottom, and every time we get ready to come off the corner over there, there's somebody that has been in his way. But this time looks like he might be able to make the pass and move on.
Guys are all battling for about 13th position. You see Ashton Lewis in the 25 car. It appears that maybe the last pit stop he only took on fuel. That's how he got out, and he's paying the price for having those older tires, it appears.
Ashton Lewis there in the 25. Blaney in the 31.
Now Blaney's a lap down, but they got a short stack right behind him. About 3 deep.
Got Truex looking on the outside. and you got Sorensen going down on the inside, and they meet in turn 3. Hello.
But look at Reed Sorensen's car, that 41. He just turns it to the bottom, nails the throttle, and he's passing 2 cars at a time right now.
It opened up for him just right that time.
It puts him up into the 12th position, but right now he's a little over 12 seconds behind our leader, Carl Edwards. He would definitely be one of the cars that would love to see a caution get caught back up.
Yeah, while you're back here wheeling and dealing in traffic, the leaders are up there motoring on away.
There's your leader, Carl Edwards. David Stremme. Greg Biffle with Kevin Harvick. Mark Martin, Elliott Sadler, J.J. Yeley, Clint Boyer, Kyle Busch, Casey Kane, Tim Fedewa, and there is Sorensen in 12th.
And Darrell, you talk about this a lot, and I know when I spot for you, you don't want to hear I'm 12.5 seconds behind the leader. It's hard for you to reference. What you want to know is when the leader crosses the line now, the start-finish line. That way you can reference it. Leader at the line now.
That's your point of reference as far as the driver is concerned. You know, everything happens at the start-finish line.
Battling Tim Fedewa right now. That's who we're riding with in the 12 car. This is a battle for 11th.
And here is Harvick making the move on Biffle. This is for 3rd place. And there's Sorensen and Fedewa on the right.
But my gosh, there just went Carl Edwards at the start-finish line. And here comes Harvick now at the line. And then you wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. And here goes Sorensen at the line. So, whoa, man, is he a long way back.
Just remember, Biffle in that 66 car, he's definitely one of the cars that would love to see a caution. We talked about it a minute ago. He'll about have to be a pit road at about 10 or 12 laps. Now, everyone will have to make at least one more pit stop, though.
131 laps complete in the Samstown 300.
Well, we've got about 69 laps here to run here at the Samstown 300 at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and Carl Edwards seems to still have the upper hand on the field, but David Stremme is having a good race. Kevin Harvick's still in there. Mark Martin's still battling. Reed Sorensen, he had to drop down, unfortunately, for that drive-through penalty that he encountered a ways back. But he's making his charge through the field in the number 41 Dodge from Ganassi Motorsports. Reed Sorensen is definitely raising a few eyebrows in NASCAR racing. He's basically come from nowhere to really prove that he perhaps is a serious NASCAR Busch Series champion this year. Not only for Rookie of the Year honors, but for the whole thing. Reed Sorensen certainly knows how to drive a race car very, very quickly. It'll be interesting to see how he does, if he can get himself up with the leaders and mix it up with those bushwhackers, as they like to call them, those veterans who have literally hundreds of thousands of miles under their belt. Reed Sorensen is pretty much a blue rookie here, but he's doing a hell of a job for a guy who's still in his teens. So let's all wish Reed Sorensen a good race as we ride along with Kenny Wallace, and he's getting instructions from his spotter. Maybe we can listen in.
There you go. Stretch it out now. Doing a good job.
Leader, start finish now.
And as the commentators were saying earlier on, the drivers want to know when the leader crosses the line. And there was a very good example of how a spotter keeps his driver informed. Very interesting to listen in when they do have those multi-car crashes. The spotter telling the driver to go low, go high, go straight. Basically, it's all in the driver's hands. The spotter's a very good guy to have. But at the end of the day, it's all in the hands of the driver, as Martin Truex Jr. and his spotter had an interesting conversation as Gene Zalasko brought us up to speed. And that's typical NASCAR racing for you. The spotters sit way up high on the top of the grandstands. For all of you loyal viewers of NASCAR Busch Racing on Motors TV, you're very much aware of all that. They are a very, very key part of a serious motor racing team. And obviously, more than a few drivers had their race saved by the good graces of their spotters, who are sitting way up above the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. As we ride along still with Kenny Wallace, he's still running in the mid-pack somewhere in the 20s, I would say.
Make some ground up here.
And in just
Be
a few
comfortable now.
seconds,
Do what it lets
we're
you
going
do.
to send you back to our friends at the NASCAR broadcast team. Darrell Waltrip, Mike Joy, Larry Mack. Take it away, gentlemen.
Welcome
It's
back
in
to
your
Las
hands.
Vegas. 64 laps to go in the NASCAR Busch Series, presented by TGIF. As you ride with Kenny Wallace, Carl Edwards has a 1.7 second lead on David Stremme. Mark Martin is the only other car lapping the track in under 34 seconds. Martin is third. Kevin Harvick, Elliott Sadler, Greg Biffle, J.J. Yaley, Clint Boyer, Kyle Busch, and Reed Sorensen are the top 10. Show you Mark Martin and the move he put on Kevin Harvick to take over third.
Right around the bottom of the racetrack where he's been, takes the position away getting in the corner. Kevin Harvick has no choice but to roll out of the throttle, let Mark Martin have the position. See Reed Sorensen in the 41 car continuing his march back to the front, battling Kyle Busch in the 5 car. This is a battle for 9th position right now.
Couple of 19-year-olds. Dick Berggren with more on Reed Sorensen.
Yeah, the car is not exactly what Sorensen might like, Mike. He just came on the radio and said that the car is a bit tighter than he might like it. Fortunately for him, however, crew chief Brian Patty has done a good job of conserving tires. He has one set of fresh stickers waiting for him on the next round of pit stops.
And Dick, should we stay green, we anticipate that everyone other than Greg Biffle, who will have to make a pit stop here shortly, that everyone will have to be on pit road at about 30 laps, somewhere around lap 170.
Carl Edwards now 2 seconds up on David Stremme. Jeannie?
Well, David Stremme playing a game of how low can you go most of this afternoon. They've been flirting with air pressure, guys. He's down about 1.5 pounds on each tire from where they originally started. By the way, I was just informed they do have a set of stickers waiting for him. But they also have some bungee cord waiting for him. That will make its way into the driver, guys. It keeps slipping out of gear. So he has to keep fudging with the gear shift to make sure it stays where he wants it. So they said, look, don't worry about it. When you get back in here, get some bungee cord, wrap it around it. It'll stay in place. You won't have to worry about it.
And Darrell, we used to actually have a bungee cord in the car tied to like one of the seat rails. That way, after a restart, if it was wanting to do that, you get it in 4th gear and just hook that bungee cord around that lever to hold it in 4th gear.
Well, I don't believe he's driving with one hand, but if that thing was giving him a problem, I bet he's laying that right hand over on that shifting lever every now and then to be sure it stays in high gear.
And just to follow up what Jeannie was talking about, the air pressure, I know the people at home maybe think 1.5 pounds of air, you would never know the difference in your passenger car, 1.5 pounds of air, but the tire is a spring itself. And 0.5 pound of air can be as much as 10 or 15 pounds of spring rate. 1.5 pounds of air in a race tire is huge.
Kevin Harvick, Elliott Sadler, 4th and 5th place. Harvick, is he about to snap his string of 2nd place finishes? And how about Elliott Sadler, Steve?
Well, Mike, Kevin Harvick's out there on a set of scuffed tires, so they'll definitely put stickers on when they come back. Meanwhile, Elliott Sadler, as Larry McReynolds pointed out, they've been chasing the racetrack and chasing the car all day long. They fixed the exit problem off the corners, but then it hurt him in the middle of the corners. Right now, he said the problem is when he gets up behind Kevin Harvick, he gets arrow tight, but he is trying to make a pass as we speak.
And here's newlywed Tim Fedowa and David Green battling 12th place.
And David Green, again, was one of those cars that earlier in the race was caught speeding on pit road, had to go to the rear of the field. He's been fighting his way back for about the last 40 or 50 laps.
You know, Larry, I think it's Elliott Sadler, Robert Yates, Rick Wren, that crowd that has put that Busch program together. They got to be pretty happy with the way they've come out of the box here right off with that car, running very well, being competitive, and right up to speed.
And good thing, Darrell, they had long faces last week after leaving Sadler out on the racetrack in Mexico City for 39 laps and running him out of gas.
And just to follow up on that, I talked to Rick Wren this morning. They were coming to pit road on the lap the caution came out, but the pit road was closed. We were talking about that, and they ran 2 laps of caution, and it put them in a box. Now, this right here, I want you to keep an eye on this, because should we get the green flag pit stops, this could be critical, because this line right here is where they have to be at 55 miles an hour. And notice, the entrance of pit road is right in the middle of turn 4. It never fails on green flag stops. Someone misses that entrance.
Reed Sorensen going after J.J. Yeley and taking 7th place.
But once again, I think Reed's problem right now, he needs that caution, because as he's been fighting these cars, he still has a fast car, but he's over 17 seconds behind leader Carl Edwards right now.
Yeley takes the spot right back. We talked on our qualifying coverage about Sorensen's day in Mexico City. Instead of running into the back of another car, he spun his own. It cost him a good finish and earned him a good bit of respect. Trouble in turn 1, a big puff of smoke, and that was from Reed Sorensen as he went down in turn 1. But it looks like he's going to be okay, but that was a big puff of smoke, and was there contact between those two?
Yeah, I believe there was.
That's definitely what the smoke was. And, of course, we stay green. There is no caution. But, again, this would cost these guys a lot of time on the racetrack. Because right behind them, you see that blue car, Clint Boyer in the 2. He's reeling these guys in. And just remember, Shane Mill in the 32 car, he's out there several laps down because of a transmission change.
See what happened here, Larry. Reed gets a run on J.J. He looks to the inside, and J.J. runs him down on the flat. And when Reed comes back up on the track, there's a little transition there, and they start to really bang into each other. And, whoa, that could have been huge.
2 or 3 little bangs.
Battling for 7th place.
Down on the apron. Now, when you come up off the apron right there, there's a little transition. Not much, but a little bit. And it can cause you to get a little loose, particularly when you're alongside someone like that.
And just remember, this is happening at over 180 miles per hour. It's not happening at about 35 miles per hour.
Well, no harm, no foul. They continue 7th and 8th behind Edwards, Stremme, Martin, Harvick, Sadler, and Biffle.
Well, Carl Edwards continues to lead ahead of David Stremme, but he's still got a bunch of his fellow Nextel Cup runners up there. He's got Mark Martin, he's got Kevin Harvick, Greg Biffle, Elliott Sadler. They're all running up at the front. As we saw just a moment ago, J.J. Yeley and Reed Sorensen, 2 of the young guns in the NASCAR Busch Series, got together in pretty decent car control, must have to admit, from the 41 and from J.J. Yeley. They could have made a real mess of things, but the 2 of them held their lines. They tapped each other a few times, kept it on the track, no yellow flag, and we're still racing. We're riding on board with Kenny Wallace. And as the communications between Kenny and his spotter are somewhat quiet, we're coming up to the last stages of the race. We're in the last quarter of the race here at Las Vegas. We've got about less than 50 laps to run. Interesting to see how that final pit stop will run. A couple of the cars got off sync with the lead pack, most notably Greg Biffle on that yellow number 66. It'll be interesting to see if a caution comes out. Everybody will dive in, obviously. Oh, we've got a frozen bit. There we go. But if they stay green, there could be some interesting things happening. It certainly could come down to perhaps just a 2-tire stop, a 4-tire stop.
Right with you,
all kinds of possibilities. Track position is key. They can pass here, but on those restarts, those Roush motors look pretty stout. They look pretty stout as we see the 14 guard go by Kenny Wallace once again. Kenny, I think, is running just a few laps down from the rest of the pack. So it should make for a hell of an end to a pretty decent race here today at Las Vegas, except for that one crash that involved Paul Menard and Stacey Compton and a few others. There's been some pretty good, clean racing here today at Las Vegas. And for fans of motorsports of all kinds, make sure you tune into Motors TV next weekend, because we'll be live from Sebring for the season opening round of the American Le Mans Series, 12 hours from Sebring. It's a classic. full field, all kind of interesting cars in the GT1 class this year, from Celine's to the new Corvette to the Maserati, which is running outside the championship, but it has been invited. A couple of Aston Martins, the ProDrive prepared DBR 9s. They should be quite interesting to watch. And, of course, there'll be those 2 champion Audis that have been pretty much having it their own way in the American Le Mans Series for the last couple of years. Then we'll be back for round 5 from Atlanta, the NASCAR Busch Series. We will interrupt Sebring to bring you all the action from Atlanta, round 5 of the NASCAR Busch Series. But round 4 isn't over. Let's send you back to the boys for the rest of the race.
Welcome back to Las Vegas. You're on FX, and Carl Edwards, your leader, clinching also the bonus for leading the most laps. 100 laps with David Stremme right behind him, and Mark Martin, Jeff Hammond, those recent pit stops. Quick review.
Quick review right now is it looks like, Carl Edwards, guys that made all the right adjustments. He's looking really strong, as he's looked all day long, Chris. But how about David Stremme up there running second place? But Larry McReynolds was talking just a little while ago about how important the timeline is across pit road. But if you'll notice, just to the left of that yellow stripe, that what looks like that little sandy looking stuff, that's speedy dry. And Larry was talking about how critical it was to be able to get slowed down to make sure you weren't speeding on the pit road. If you come in very hot off that racetrack and your spotter can't see that to tell you, hey, beware, you may hit that and slide back up inside the racetrack, or even spin out, creating a bigger crash than what you could imagine. So these guys need to be careful because the crew chiefs can't see this.
And an important role for spotters. Now, most of the spotters, they come from different backgrounds, different connections. What's the most important thing?
Oh, did you see that right there? Carl Edwards is in a hurry right there, and he's trying to put some pressure on the 8-car Mark Truex, but he almost got up into that lap car, and that would have been bad news for both of these guys, vying for the championships. He's trying to put Mark Truex down a lap, and I'm sure he's thinking, well, if I can get to him and get around him, it'll really make my day even that much more sweeter as he's getting underneath Mark Truex going down the back straightaway.
Other than having good eyesight, though, what qualifies one as a good spotter?
You've got to be calm. You've got to be able to handle pressure situations and realize sometimes what your driver needs. As we watch right now, Carl Edwards is continually putting the pressure on that 8-car Mark Truex.
Let's go back upstairs and rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
So Carl Edwards, the pole sitter, who's been the fastest thing all day, puts the defending series champ a lap down. And there's action, as you predicted, Larry, in Greg Biffle's pit.
Yeah, he's on pit road right now. And he stayed outside of that stay dry.
That's actually Paul Wolf in the 6-car. Now here comes Biffle in the 66. He has to be down to 45 miles per hour. We anticipate this could be the last pit stop for all of these teams, Greg Biffle being the first. This is where you cannot have that mistake. No loose lug nuts, no speeding on pit road. Matt Yoakum, it'll be 4 tires, though.
Larry Mack also looked for a track bar adjustment. Now, he told his crew chief Newt Moore, I've been easy on the gas. So Newt said, all right, instead of lap 156, come in on lap 157. He'd fallen back about 15 seconds. Remember, as he slides to a stop, now the angle is going to be a little bit off. Let's see if it poses a problem for the Jackman when he comes around to the left side of the car. If he can get that handle down and pump all the way, you can see the water started to come out over the overflow. He jacks the car up okay. The car was slowly spewing some water out, and he's down and away. 17.1 seconds for the Biff.
Paul Wolf made a stop, so did Scott Riggs. Now, Casey Kane is in. Darrell, if you're out there on worn tires, how long can you wait when fellas like Biffle have fresh ones?
Well, I mean, he's so far behind now, I don't think it's going to help him that much. But what happens coming to pit when you get to your pit box? All these guys right at the last instant will gas it just to pick up that little bit more speed, a little bit more time getting into their pit box. When they do that, sometimes it causes them to slide through or lock up the tires and get in trouble getting into the pit box.
Of course, what Greg Biffle, his crew chief Newt Moore, we see Casey Kane in for a routine pit stop here with 40 laps to go. What they're hoping over the next 15 to 20 laps, cycling through these green flag pit stops without a caution, where they will stay on the lead lap.
Ashton Lewis is in. Paul Wolf got a drive-through penalty for too fast entering pit road for his stop in the number 6. But meanwhile, Carl Edwards just continues to run among the fastest laps of anyone. He and Mark Martin and David Stremme, along with Kevin Harvick and Joe Nemechek and Reed Sorensen, the cars that are under 35 seconds a lap here.
The thing that the tires will do, you asked about Biffle, the things they'll do for him is they'll give him an advantage right now, which could, in fact, if a caution came out, maybe get him the free pass because he'd be the first car a lap down, or at least it's going to get him back on the lead lap when the other cars do make their pit stops. But he's so many seconds behind the leader, I just don't see how he's going to catch up to be a challenger.
Kenny Wallace makes a stop as green flag stops continue with 39 laps to go.
He just gave up so much time on those older tires. I just don't think he can offset it with the new tires.
And we have 14 cars on the lead lap. Jeremy Mayfield in the 64 car will be the next car that Carl Edwards puts a lap down. But what it'll be for those cars, it will be somewhat of a waiting game. Once these cars start coming into pit road to get those 4 tires, then you can't afford to wait. Now, Carl Edwards can, because he has almost a 4-second lead. He can wait a little bit because he has such a lead and maybe get a caution and put a ton of cars a lap down.
Penalty stop for Casey Kane coming. Too many men over the wall servicing the car.
You can only have 7 men, and then thing over that is a penalty. And there's another mistake late in the race.
Here's the thing, Larry, green flag pit stops will tell you how good your pit crew is. These guys can come in and out under caution. They got a little bit of free time there, a little bit of buy themselves a little cushion, but not under green.
Steve?
Yeah, and to add what DW just said, Kevin Harvick's been having great pit stops all day long. If this race stays green, they're going to pit on about lap 175. Harvick saying he has a push in the front of his race car, no grip in the back. Elliott Sadler may pit about lap 170.
Thanks, Steve. Eric Norris missed the entrance to pit road. He'll have to do a go-around as Tony Raines comes out of the pit lane and Casey Kane comes in to serve his drive-through penalty.
We've been talking about how treacherous it is getting on the pit road at Las Vegas without Speedy Dry down there on the entrance. You look at Reed Sorensen in the 41 car, he has never made a green flag pit stop at Las Vegas because he has to be very conservative. He needs to walk that fine line. He don't want to give a lot of time up, but he don't want to spin out and miss the entrance as well.
David Green is in for his stop. As Carl Edwards' lead over David Stremme now stretches to 4.4 seconds. Mark Martin is pretty close on Stremme, though. And they're pretty close. He's there. He's right there.
Battle for second. David Stremme saw how much better. I think we've all seen all day long how much better Mark Martin in the 9 gets in the corner. Stremme very smart. There he just moves over. That way it costs neither guy a lot of time.
Well, he knows a pit stop's coming, and there's no need holding Mark up right now. Just follow him, and maybe you can pass him in the pits.
So Roush Gutierrez, that's from Rocketeers, by the way, run 1-2 here at the House of Roush. Carl Edwards, Mark Martin, pretty much as expected, out front here with 34 laps to go.
And we're definitely getting to that window now within about the next 8 to 10 laps that these cars will have to come to pit road that have not made a pit stop yet because of needing fuel.
Here comes Truex. He's on pit road.
Yeah, he's already gone a lap down, so kind of safe to make his stop.
And that's a good time. Once the leader puts you a lap down, come on to pit road, get those 4 tires, make some adjustments, hopefully get back to the point maybe where you can get the free pass like Darrell was talking about a while ago.
Eric Norris, too fast entering pit road. He'll get a drive-through penalty. Electronic timing of the pit road speeds in place by NASCAR for both the Busch and the Nextel Cup divisions. And a lot of tickets being handed out today. Clint Boyer is in. Jeremy Mayfield is in for their last stops. Dick?
Well, Clint Boyer's crew chief has done a great job on tires. Gil Martin has saved 4 fresh ones for this last round. They put scuffs on before this just to keep those tires in good shape. And Dick, Clint had a little extra challenge coming on the pit road because his pit box was right just beyond the entrance, so he really had to get woed down coming on the pit road.
Here's Matt.
Mike Carl Edwards should pit in 1 lap. 2 laps ago, his crew chief Brad Harrison, all right, We're going to pit in 3 laps. Start getting your bearings so you can make a good entrance to pit road under this green flag condition. So he keeps reminding his driver, get an eye as you come out of turn 4, where the cones are, where you need to start to get on the binders.
Third place car on pit road, Stremme.
Yeah, and he was really fighting it to get it on the pit road without spinning out.
Jeannie.
Thought process in the 14 of David Stremme was to do whatever Mark Martin did, but Stremme coming on the radio a little bit ago saying, hey, you know what, my tires are really going away on me. I don't know how much longer I can deal with this. Remember, he's got that gear that's popping in and out as well. Stickers, fuel, bungees, he's gone. Matt?
And Carl Edwards' crew up on the wall, the signboard waving, waiting for the 60 car to make his long way down pit road to the very first pit stall. This young man trying to break through with his first Busch career win. As Brad Parrott's been the victory lane many times, 17 years he's been involved in NASCAR racing. His second generation crew chief as Carl pulls to a stop perfectly, hits it right on the signboard. No chassis adjustments as the 9 car is down and away. The guys come around to the left side to hit the lugs. Smooth stop going so far for Edwards. The wheels on, lugs tight, and he is down and away.
Reed Sorensen has come to a stop in his pit. He's done a nice job parking the car. It's a 4-tire change with 4 fresh ones. He had complained that the car was getting tighter and tighter. They adjusted that with air pressure. Steve.
Kevin Harvick down pit road. They had a pair of scuff tires on the last stop. This time they'll take their last set of stickers. Harvick complaining that the car had been just a little bit tight. They'll add wedge. Right side tires going on for Harvick. Elliott Sadler also in, as you see on your screen there on both sides. Wedge adjustment also for Elliott Sadler. His service is finished. Harvick away as well.
Now, Steve, Elliott Sadler missed pit road entrance. He was slowed down. He couldn't get beneath the cones on the commit line. Had to go all the way back around. That will cost him.
All these green flag stops handed the lead to Joe Nemechek, who has just come onto pit road. You ride with him as he's headed for his stop down at the turn 1 end of the pits. And the new leader will become Kyle Busch, who will lead for the first time today.
And the last caution, Mike, Joe Nemechek came down pit road after the Menard crash just to check his tires to make sure he didn't flat spot him. A former winner here as Donnie Tarantino hits the lugs on that left front for Nemechek. The fuel's in, and he is away.
Trouble for J.J. Yeley on his pit stop. He can't leave the pit with equipment attached to the car.
And under green, we've been talking about it this entire last 100 laps. Mistakes on pit road, that's what catches the excess fuel. He'll have to come back in. You can see the dejection on the pit crew because they had a top 10 race car.
That's a shame because he had done a great job. And, man.
Well, you know, about 8 or 9 more drive-through penalties, he'll be back up in the top 10.
Kyle Busch on pit road for his 4 tires. And this should cycle it through.
Dave Blaney just in front of him.
6, 5, 3, right here, buddy, look.
And that was Jim Long that you heard counting Kyle Busch into his pit stop. This car had been fast early in the day, but then things kind of went away when he got a set of tires that he did not agree with. Caution on the speedway as Busch pits.
Debris in the back straightaway is the reason for this caution. It's the 7th one today, and they have waived the caution for the catch can from J.J. Yeley's car.
It pretty much had cycled through the entire green flag pit stop sequence there. Now, Kyle Busch, I'm sure, is beating on his steering wheel one more lap. He would have had a ton of cars a lap down here late in the race. But for the most part, everyone had made their green flag stops.
So we should have 12 cars on the lead lap, plus the free pass car. When things sort out here, 25 laps to go.
Very interesting.
And I think the thing they'll have to sort out, Mike, will be, did Kyle Busch indeed stay on the lead lap? Because where he's pitting at the beginning of pit road, as long as he beat the leader to the start-finish line, which goes all the way across pit road, he stayed on the lead lap.
He did do that. He definitely beat the 60 car out.
Clint Bowyer will get the free pass. That will give us 13 cars on the lead lap. Carl Edwards comes out of the Midwest and out of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, where he made the victory backflip. Famous and unique.
Carl Edwards leading with 23 laps to go here in Las Vegas. Mike Choi mentioned that Carl does the backflip and did it the start-finish line after winning the 2004 Daytona NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, but he has stated that he won't perform another backflip, at least on TV, until he wins another race. So this might be the perfect opportunity to see Carl Edwards do that. Kevin Harvick, excellent pit stops all day, currently running fourth, but problems the last time around for the 21 car.
Yeah, we've been watching and commenting all day long how flawless this crew has been all day. But on the last stop, when they came in, I was noticing that the right rear tire changer had gotten up and gone back around to the left side, and they were waiting. A lot of trouble right there getting the tire off the right front. I saw a lot of brake dust, but again, how slow you are coming around from the right side dictates how fast the total stop is. It was like an 18.2, one of his slowest stops at a very inopportune time.
7 cautions so far, 1 away from the track record, ready to go green.
Harvick will restart fourth behind Carl Edwards, David Stremme, and Mark Martin. It's Ford, Dodge, Ford, Chevy at the front with Elliott Sadler fifth, Joe Nemechek, David Green, Reed Sorensen, Kyle Busch, and Denny Hamlin, the top 10.
Boy, Elliott Sadler lucked out, Larry, missing pit road the way he did. And then now he's sitting up there in 5th place. That's pretty good recovery.
Yes, it is.
Dave Blaney did not get going on the restart. He may only have high gear. And one car, might have been Derek Cope, may have brushed the wall coming off turn 2.
I think he just got shoved up out of the groove. I don't think he hit the wall.
Okay. Shane Meals taking his car to the garage as Paul Menard with crash damage returns to the race. Now, during that caution flag, a number of drivers, including Greg Biffle, had a chance to put on that last set of fresh tires.
Well, we talked about when he did not pit on lap 110, as we see, boy, Elliott Sadler got real loose right there in the middle of 3 and 4, and he's going to lose the position to Joe Nemechek in the 87, who we're riding with, and a lot more cars, but he was trying to save that set of tires. Newt Morris, crew chief, elected to stay out. Maybe it'll pay off for Greg, but it better hurry, because meanwhile, Carl Edwards in about 3 laps already a second and a half out front of the second place car, the 60 car.
Yeah, that 60 car today with Carl Edwards, he's in a league of his own. I mean, he's in another zip code.
Biffle restarted 12th. He is up to 8th. See what happens over these final 20 laps.
Carl's car, just like it was in the beginning of the race, he can open up such a huge lead before the other guys can kind of get going.
See Biffle right there, the yellow 66 car pulls up behind Reed Sorensen in the 41 car. This is a battle for 6th now.
Tell you one thing, they worked on that 5 car, and he's coming back up through there too. He's up to 8th place and passing him when he catches him.
Told these boys 19 laps to go. This is where you reach up there and pull those belts and dig tight, dig low.
Dude, right there is moving on.
Been a tough day for last week's winner. Martin Truex Jr. went a lap down during this last long green flag run, finds himself in 15th.
I don't think we can say enough about David Stremme, though, guys. Running in 2nd place, and the day he's had, I mean, it's been a phenomenal day for him and that team.
And the week he's had, he was so sick he had to climb out of the car last Sunday in mid-race. But he's made quite a recovery, and so has this team. Here's Jeannie.
Talking about David Stremme, of course, mentioning that, you know, his gear was slipping out. They had to send bungee cords through. Car was loose, car was tight. You know, the typical stuff you get during the race, but he's just been fighting it all day admirably. I mean, even now, guys, you can't really tell, but he says the car is shaking on him.
Well, Well, that's not a good sign. That shaking is probably something related to that gearbox problem he's having. And let's just hope for his sake it'll hang in there for a few more laps.
17 to go. Let's go back to 9th place, where Randy LaJoie in the Frank Cece and Jim Kelly Dollar General car had to take the Champions Provisional to get into show. And yet, LaJoie has climbed his way to 9th.
Yeah, we've been talking about comers and goers. Yeah, started dead last on the field. John Bland is crew chief. They've made the right calls. This is a great run for this race team, sitting there in 9th with 16 laps to go. Good run for Randy. You know, that little bobble Elliott Sadler made about 4 or 5 laps ago off turn 2. He's all the way back to 13th now. Actually, the last car on the lead lap.
Yeah, he could never quite recover from that slide job that happened down in turn 2. He had his hands full.
And Greg Biffle continues to progress. Biffle is up to 6th. Remember, he restarted 12th. Matt?
And Biffle's trying to motor his way back up at the front of the field. The 60 says he has a tire going down.
Got a right rear tire down.
No caution yet. Edwards gets it back up on the apron. Nope, spins it again.
Yeah,
caution is out now.
Right rear tire is down, and he's...
Now, he'll stay on the lead lap. I guess my question would be...
Right rear. 4 tires going to come in. 4 tires going to come in. Sorry, bud. Good call on your tire, man.
All right, that was Brad Parrott, his crew chief. They're going to go ahead and change 4 tires. I guess my question, I'm sure our guys will find out exactly how good of tires does he have left in the pits to put on that car here for this final run.
Now, let me ask you, since he spun and brought the caution out, what would have been the penalty? We're going to see the spin here, and then we'll find out what would have been the penalty if he'd just driven across the grass straight to his pit. As that tire goes down.
Yeah, I don't think it. I'm sure they would have held him because he would have been on pit road illegally. That's my guess.
Yeah, I wonder if his tail end of the longest line, or would they hold him a lap?
Probably
either way. Point because he kept going.
Either way, I don't think it makes any difference.
What a shame, though, because not only was he the pole sitter, he has been the class of the field all day long.
I'll tell you who this is a big break for is Greg Biffle. You see right there a lot of smoke coming from the right rear tire, but I think this is a big break for Greg Biffle because if we can get within the 10-lap window, he'll restart this race in 5th with a little fresher tires, and we'll have no lap cars to deal with. So this could be good for Greg Biffle.
Carl Edwards was in a real box there, you know, Larry. He should have come on pit road that time by, I think, because that tire is going to come apart, and it is going to rip the right rear quarter panel right off of that car. And now he's had to slow down so much to keep that from happening. Maybe should have dove that baby on pit road the first time by.
Because the penalty is the tail end of the longest line, but it's much better than tearing a fender or quarter panel up.
See, it's shredded now. You see it right underneath the car. And hopefully he can get around here without doing a whole lot more damage. And that Kyle Busch coming onto pit road as well under this caution flag.
Oh, yeah, and he was up there in about 6th, 7th place, I think.
Scott Riggs is in a number of pit stops. Dick?
Kyle Busch is in again. He complained that last set of tires was just like the ones earlier in the race. Just loosened the car up. They decided to keep that set of tires on. They were out of fresh tires. In fact, in that last pit stop, they were out of fresh tires. Put a couple of rounds in the left rear to try to tighten it up, but he will have his hands full for these last laps.
Casey Kane, Elliott Sadler, Denny Hamlin, and Ashton Lewis are also on pit road as Edwards finally makes it into the pit lane, Matt.
And his crew watching our coverage told him, you're going too fast. You need to slow down some more. We need to try to save that quarter panel. Now, Carl said, do whatever you have to do, pressure-wise or chassis adjustments, to make me as good as I can over this little short sprint we're going to have to the finish as he slowly makes his way down pit road.
Now, they definitely do not have any new tires, sticker tires. We're definitely seeing scuffs. I guess it just... We'll find out exactly how good those scuffed tires are, which tires that has been run before, whether it was in practice or earlier in the race.
Well, the worst thing, Larry, is he's going to have to restart 14th. And without benefit of new tires, that could be tough sledding.
Actually, he's starting 28th because he's got all those lap cars on the inside. So he's 14th in the outside line, but he's got all those lap cars, so that's going to be hard to pull off.
So the game has changed here in Las Vegas with 12 laps to go.
Well, certainly a tough break for the car that was dominating the race here today at Las Vegas. Carl Edwards just wasn't meant to be, I guess, for his first win in the NASCAR Busch Series, but that's the way it goes in motorsports. With about 10 laps to go or so, David Stremme finds himself up front, but he's got that number 9 Ford Taurus and Mark Martin right on his back bumper, so it could be a very interesting restart. Mark Martin could definitely put the hammer down and make quick business of David Stremme. However, there's a few other top runners up there, none other than Greg Biffle in the number 66. Certainly a fan favorite amongst a few of you on Motors TV, as well as Kevin Harvick. I think Reed Sorensen will probably be up in that lead group somewhere. He's probably just behind Biffle. We can't really see from this Kenny Wallace onboard camera. As we see the cars up front warm those tires up, scuff, new, whatever they may be. They got to go 10 more laps here in Las Vegas. So we definitely have Kevin Harvick up ahead of Greg Biffle. I can't make out the car that's in between them, who's warming his tires up. Should be a very interesting restart. Perhaps that is Fido. I'm not sure. No, I think Tim's still up front. Anyway, Mark Martin's certainly going to be a tough car to beat. Kevin Harvick's had 3 second places. He'd like to go one better today, but he very well could end up in second place as well. There we see Reed Sorensen. He's right on Greg Biffle's back bumper. So this could be a great finish to what's been a pretty decent race today. So anyway, we're going to send you back to the NASCAR crew live from Las Vegas. On delayed basis from Las Vegas. Enjoy the finish.
Finishing up the 8th caution period, tying the record set in 1997. David Stremme, who finished 3rd here last year, is the leader. 10 laps to go. Green flag. He's got to hold off Mark Martin, Kevin Harvick, Joe Nemechek, and Greg Biffle.
Yeah, and he's got to get that thing in high gear, Larry, in a hurry, and get that bungee cord wrapped around it, and don't look back.
Here comes Edwards, 4 wide on the outside, entering turn 1. He's a man on a mission.
He knows he does not have long. He only has 10 laps to go. And Matt Yokin, I guess I'm curious, what kind of tires did he put on Carl Edwards?
Got a pass for the lead down the back here, guys.
As they're battling for the lead with Martin and the 14, Larry Mack, to answer your question, 18-lap scuffs. There was a U-shaped cut on that right rear tire.
Look at David Stremme in that 14 car. He wants this Busch Series win. 9 laps to go. Look at him. We got 3 cars there under our blanket.
Yeah, but Mark Martin's been the best on the low side all day. Stremme gives him plenty of room, and he's going to surrender the lead to Martin. And here comes Harvick. All this side-by-side racing may be a benefit to Biffle and Carl Edwards, but they are maybe too far back and have this kind of traffic to get through. That's Edwards in the middle.
3 wide going off into the corner. That will not work very long. Somebody had to give.
And it was Clint Boyer in the 2 with Mayfield on the outside.
Tell you one thing, Stremme has not given up. He has got to whip out, and he is going back after Mark Martin, and he is driving the wheels off his old race car.
Edwards has gained 4 spots on that lap, up to 10th. Nemechek 4th, looking ahead at Kevin Harvick.
Stremme's really good in 3 and 4, a lot like Martin was earlier. Stremme really drives down into 3 well and gets through 3 and 4 pretty good up on the high side.
Here comes second place Harvick, trying for his 4th runner-up finish in a row.
Whoop.
It just seems like Stremme in the 14 cannot keep his car on the bottom. He keeps opening the door to these guys, and they keep driving under.
I think he's just over driving, really. I mean, he's really just trying to hang on to what he's got, and he's charging down in the corner, and we got trouble.
Yeah, Kyle Busch got a little in the back of Dave Blaney because he had a mirror full of Carl Edwards, and Edwards scoots past that entire pack of cars in one move.
Stremme will not give up this battle right here for second place. And while these guys are side by side, it's pulled Joe Nemechek, who we're riding with in the 87 car, right into the battle. But Mark Martin's loving this battle because he's driving away from these guys with 6 laps to go.
Edwards is up to 11th. Excuse me, he's up to 8th and still coming. 6 laps to go. Reed Sorensen 6th, Randy LaJoie 7th, Edwards 8th, ahead of David Green.
Get that 34.
A little bit of cheerleading going on from Carl Edwards' spotter. Go get Randy LaJoie, the 34 car. That's the next car he's racing for position. 5 laps to go this time.
3 cars in between Edwards and LaJoie. And the leader disappearing. Mark Martin just ran the fastest lap of anybody on this lap 195.
That's about as fast. pretty darn fast lap. That's 33.5 at this point of the day.
Stremme has figured out how to make that car work right now about a groove off the bottom of the racetrack. And he's actually pulling away a little bit from Kevin Harvick in the 21 with 4 to go.
Yeah, his old car really gets into the corner nicely for him. He's a little bit better in 3 and 4 than he is in 1 and 2, but he's got that thing up on the high side, keeping it wound up. And he's able to hold Harvick off.
Mark Martin, that 9 car, he's right where he's been all day long, hugging that white line right around the bottom of the racetrack. 3 to go.
About like we saw him at Fontana a couple of weeks ago.
80 out back, 1.6 lead.
And what his crew chief was telling him, you ran a 33.70. The car behind you out back ran a 33.80. That gives Mark good information where he's at.
And the 1.6, that's his lead in seconds over this pair. Edwards is not done. He's going after Randy LaJoie for 7th. Carl 10th at Daytona, 6th at California, 3rd in Mexico, and now he's back up to 7th place after that cut tire.
Just remember, he came in here second in the points. The leader, Kevin Harvick, in the 21. This will be the last race he competes in for a while. So Carl Edwards, the big picture, the championship.
Then Harvick's had a really bad day after 3 second-place finishes. Golly, he'll finish third.
He's not ready to give up on that second just yet, though.
No, it's white flag, and I know he wants to finish second again today.
Well, let's see how it plays out. Mark Martin crosses the line with a 2-second lead. Harvick draws a bead on Stremme, looks low, nothing there in turn 1.
I know one thing, our leader Mark Martin, he has almost a 2-second lead. But these 100,000 people are all waving him on this white flag lap.
Stremme looks to have second. Nope, here comes Harvick. Harvick on the inside, charging hard. Side by side. Mark Martin's going to win it.
Stremme tried to push him down, but Harvick leads him back to the line.
Harvick got that run off of 2, got down underneath of Stremme, and there wasn't anything he could do about it.
Harvick's hole card got him second place at the wire. 4 straight second place finishes.
It's almost like he knew he had one shot to do it, and he did it coming off turn 4.
Mark Martin started 25th to score his 47th NASCAR Busch Series win. 2 for 2 this year. He won back here in 1999, in the Busch Series. And for Jack Roush, the Roushketeers have 4 wins in the 9 Busch Series races.
I always wondered why Mark quit running Busch races, and now I know why. To give everybody else a chance.
Let's show you that finish for second place once again.
Yeah, this is Stremme's been running a little high, left the door open, and Harvick got him a great run. He gets down under him, and when he cuts it to the bottom right there, Stremme knows it's too late. I can't do anything about it. But that's still, David Stremme drove his tail off today, and he did a great job. By the way, happy birthday to my Lisa's husband, David, back home in Franklin, Tennessee.
Joe Nemechek 4th, Greg Biffle 5th, Reed Sorensen 6th, and Carl Edwards 7th, ahead of Randy LaJoie, Clint Bowyer, and David Green. There is Jack Roush, who gets his 11th major NASCAR win in Las Vegas.
Well, congratulations to Mark Martin, and certainly he made a happy man out of Jack Roush, as we saw Jack Roush come up to congratulate his driver on his second win from 2 starts in 2005. Mark Martin, once again, the winner here today at Las Vegas after his dominating performance at Fontana. Once again, the veteran came through. He started way down the grid, but that didn't matter. He managed his car. His team did the business. They had the motor, and Mark Martin is making his second trip to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway victory lane. Terrific race from Mark Martin. Hats off to him. And an interesting anecdote. When do 2 aces beat 4 of a kind? Well, when you're in NASCAR Busch racing. Mark Martin is 2 for 2, 2 wins from 2 starts. Kevin Harvick, 4 straight second place finishes. A great poker hand. but he comes up just a little bit short once again. But all things considered, he's still leading the championship, although he will be stepping out of that car in the near future to let a young rookie by the name of Brendan Miller get his go in the NASCAR Busch Series, starting most likely in Atlanta. David Stremme, terrific race from that driver who races for the Fitz Bradshaw team. Came home a strong third place today. Looked like he could have held off Kevin Harvick there at the end, but Harvick just had too much horsepower in that Chevrolet his to get around the car of David Stremme. Joe Nemechek, front row Joe. He didn't start out front today. In fact, he started way down on the field, but Joe Nemechek, the veteran that he is, he battled. He figured his car out, and he came home for a fourth place finish ahead of Greg Biffle. Fine job from the number 66 coming in with another top 5 finish in NASCAR Busch Racing. And the rookie, once again, Reed Sorensen. Great stuff from him in that Ganassi car. Carl Edwards, the hard luck award goes to Carl Edwards today. He was dominating all day long, had the same power, had the same setup as Mark Martin, had that tire go down, but he battled back in the last stages to recuperate a pretty decent 7th place finish ahead of former champion Randy LaJoie. Clint Boyer did a good job in 9th, and we can't close out the evening without saying that, yes, number 27, David Green, a former champion, rounded out the top 10. So, that'll do it for me from Motors TV tonight. Thanks for joining us for another terrific NASCAR Busch race. We'll see you in the near future.
Back out at Saturday, Mark Martin winning his 47th career Busch Series title, and Steve Burns is down with him in victory lane. Steve?
And Mark Martin getting a cold drink. Another win for Roush Racing and another win for the all-time winningest driver in NASCAR Busch Series history, Mark Martin. Mark, you got a win at Fontana in your Busch car. Another win here today as Jack Roush joins you. Tell us about this victory. How'd you win it?
We got a little lucky today. Carl Edwards and his bunch had that thing in the bag there today. They did an awesome job, and they were long gone, man. We just couldn't get to them, and the way it turned out, we kind of needed that last caution to get a chance to catch up to the 14 there, and everything played in our hands today. I just want to thank Pennzoil and Ford and Pat and Jack and all the people that make it all possible.
Another good day for Roush Racing in Las Vegas, Matt Yoakum.
And Brad Parrott almost got Carl Edwards' first career win. You had a set of 18-lap scuffs. If you'd had stickers, would that have been enough to get him?
I think a set of Goodyears would have got us somewhere there, but man, I can't say enough about World Financial Group for coming on board, Brad Parrott, Charter Communications, National Guard, all our sponsors.
What about the drive by you?
Man, I'm just lucky to be driving for this team. This thing was terrible yesterday. Brad got out all his notes. I've never seen so many notes in my life, and he swore it was going to work, and I could not believe how great this car was. So we're going to lose races like that. I mean, that's okay, and I can't say congratulations enough to Mark Martin. He's a hero of mine. He deserves wins, and that team worked really hard. So proud that Roush won. Sorry it wasn't us.
Led a lot of laps today, 125. He says he's got an even better car for tomorrow. Dick?
Hey, Kevin Harvick, 4 second places in a row. Are you ready to give this car up to somebody else? You're going to drive it next week in Atlanta.
Yeah, Brandon Miller's going to drive it next week in Atlanta. But this Reese's Chevrolet has been awesome at the start of this year. We just haven't been able to crack down on a win yet. But it's hard to complain about 4 second place finishes. So the guys did good all day. Congratulations to Mark Martin. He's just got by David. And I want to say congratulations to Armando and David Stremme and this whole Navy team. Those guys, for the small effort that they have and all the things that they put into it with Chip Ganassi's help and everybody, they've come a long way. So it was a lot of fun there at the end.
And congratulations to you. You have been driving brilliantly. Jeannie?
Well, last week, David Stremme saying, I don't remember getting out of the car. I bet this one is memorable. I'm listening to you complain, but I got to tell everybody that bungee cord never made it into the car. They meant to send it over the wall, so you were working the gear the whole time.
Yeah, this is my bungee cord right here. I was having to run one arm, but my car, it wasn't as tight, or it was too tight there at the end of the race. It wasn't as good as what I needed, but I didn't really want to race this car here. My California car got a little tore up when Jamie and I finished here at the end, but again, this whole Navy team's doing a great job, and I'm just happy to run good for the men and women of the Navy, is give them something a little hooting and hollering about. So last week I was a little ill, and my stomach's still not quite right. I'm just all week been kind of having to watch what I eat.
Finishing like this has to cure you up a little bit. Mike Joy?
I guess you'd have to call David Stremme the one-arm bandit today.
No kidding.
Rewarded with a third-place finish. Kevin Harvick nipping him at the finish. That's going to be our win fuel. Winning edge. Here is Mark Martin. Margin of victory as he scores win number 47 in the NASCAR Busch Series. Mark at the line. And here's the race to the line for Harvick and Stremme.
Close. Right here, David knew he had him, though. He couldn't do anything about it. Had to let him go. But you know what? I'm going to end this day just like I started it. Carl Edwards, what an attitude. Standing there smiling. I'm the lucky one who got to drive the car today. Didn't complain.
More from Las Vegas after this.